With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's time for the paths of the two series on Tuesday night to diverge, and we start first with a trip up to Watkins Glen as the GT3 Fix Series gets ready to rumble in upstate New York as we get ready to go for Tuesday night GT3 PRL action. Hello everyone and welcome back along to RaceSpotTV, where my name is Arjuna Kankipati, and as always I'm joined by the one, the only Joey Tebben. Joey, as I was saying, we have split attention here today. We start off in Watkins Glen, but then we travel halfway around the world, go across an ocean, over to Harath for the GT3 sprint drivers. However, that does not mean that we're not going to have a fantastic race first here in upstate New York.
And dare I say, this is the best road course in the world. It's not the best format of this road course in the world. I'm personally biased towards the layout with the boot and no bus stop, but today we take on the bus stop, we take on the boot as well. It's the ultimate challenge at Watkins Glen. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Those of you who've ever been there in the real world, it's very far from real civilization, but it more than makes up for that as one of the most fantastic road courses in the world. It's fantastic for passing, high speeds. I'm just going to keep simping for Watkins Glen for the next 2 hours.
You're going to try, but I'm not going to let you. It's an interesting one. The thing that still confused my mind is that, again, we're going to Harath with the GT3 Sprint Series later tonight. The GT3 Fix Series goes to Harath later this season. It's confusing, yes, we know, but don't worry. You'll get your heads around it, hopefully. Here's how they line up, though, with 3 rounds now in the books already, with Evan Smogor 3 consecutive top 5 finishes, starting to build up some momentum and building up a little bit of an advantage. Of course, we've seen 3 different winners in as many races, and so Joey, this is wide open still.
But you know what they say, slow and steady wins the race. In this case, it's Smo and steady that's winning the race, because Evan Smoger was rapid at Sebring, dominantly won that race, did not have anywhere near the same pace at Imola and the Red Bull Ring these past 2 weeks, but clearly, and most importantly, he did not crash, he made up positions in the race, he was consistent, and he finished in the top 5 in both of those races. So it doesn't always pay to be the fastest in the world, it just pays to finish the races, and when races get crazy as they do in the GT3 Fix Series, you do have to finish to get those points.
We've got, what, 44 cars getting ready to go for the race here to kick things off. So yeah, craziness is expected, and Watkins Glen is known for its fair share of track blockers. Here's a look at the team championship, of course, in just 6-point splitting Lunatic Racing from the Vulture Motorsport North, but Flying Lion Racing not too far behind as well, and so therefore still all to play for when it comes to the team championship, Joey.
And we're not going to stop saying that. Book that for the next 6 weeks. We're going to keep saying that the team's championship is going to be this close, because In the past couple of seasons, we've seen some super teams in this series. It was dominant for Vulture Motorsports last season at the top of the standings, but now Lunatic Racing has multiple proven winners in its squad. Flying Lion Racing has joined the fray with a winner there as well, so this is truly going to be a three-way fight for the rest of the season. It's not going to break up.
Well, the car is already out on track for qualifying, and again, it's open qualifying, so it's relatively treacherous for them all to get themselves a lap on the board. Let's first, though, thank those that make all this coverage possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceSpotTV.com and get a 5% discount also using the Precision5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mechasim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for high-end pedal sets, handbrakes, or sequential shifters, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsports and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And Ninja Trader, better futures start now. Trade the world's future markets with Ninja Trader. Visit Ninja Trader to access unlimited free trade simulation. And so as we go for qualifying here, it's not just about getting a lap onto the board at a track where track limits can be oh so treacherous, but more importantly, Joey, it's going to be all about maximizing the track limits.
And Watkins Glen does have pretty straightforward track limits in most places. It's not quite like the Red Bull Ring last week, where you really have to learn where can you hit a curb, where can you go off into the runoff without getting an incident point. Here it's pretty straightforward. There's generally grass to the outside of most places, but in a recent update, Watkins Glen was rescanned, so there is more asphalt runoff through the final couple of corners, and on the outside of turn 1, you cannot abuse that too much. You still can to an extent, but you do have to know the limits. You do have to know how far off you can go into the asphalt, and Justin Delano here, number 1, he's not even using any of it through the second to last corner.
What I did mean to say was maximize your usage of the draft, but track limits is equally important. Sorry, Joe, I threw you under the bus there a little bit. Anyway, across the line with 6.5 minutes left to go. Look how close it is between downtown Gary Brown, who established himself on pole position last time out. He's carried that momentum forward here nicely as well.
We're going to have to start calling him Uptown Gary Brown for too long.
No.
It was Dylan Coyle who was all about the Billy Joel references last week in the PRL NASCAR Wednesday series, but I think Billy can invade here. I'm in a New York state of mind.
Who started the fire last Wednesday in the broadcast booth?
Probably. I think it was actually Dylan. I think Dylan kicked it off. It wasn't my fault.
Wow, okay. You're throwing Dylan under the bus. I see how it is.
Of course. And he's not here to defend himself. He's not here until tomorrow night.
That's right, because, again, Wednesdays, PRL action rolls around. You're around tomorrow, correct?
I am not around tomorrow.
Okay.
I have one of my few Wednesday other commitments, so I think Ewan O'Leary will be taking over. We'll get the dulcet Ewan tones on the NASCAR broadcast. That'll be fun.
Look at you, prioritizing things that aren't the PRL.
It's rare. It's rare.
It is rare. Okay, so even though the top two are clear of Colin McKenzie by about 0.08 of a second, you have to go all the way back to Jay Steffi in the is it the first of the fours? No, it's the second of the fours that sits in 6th. Apparently the fours are also good here at Watkins Glen, because Eric Kulaga, who we've seen run up and towards the podium over the course of this season, well, he's tucked up behind Jay Steffi in a fellow blue oval. We did see there J.R. Gregory jumping up into the top 10, so clearly there's still plenty of improvements to be had.
5 minutes left to go in qualifying. Open qualifying this season. It's still something that everybody's getting used to here as we approach the middle part of the season. There are 40-plus cars as Eric Kalaga goes far too far off the road. That's not going to count for him. But there's currently 44 cars out on track right now. It's impossible to find clean track and get a good lap in. You're going to have to run into somebody eventually, and Aero Urexoy, I think, got some draft there. He's put it up on pole.
Yep. And it's by, what, 200ths of a second? So expect that to maybe swap back around shortly in the winding down of this qualifying session. Quick look at the weather conditions, because, well, It's pretty ideal track conditions. It's not as cold as it would get, but we're qualifying in the morning. It's only going to get warmer when we start going racing because, of course, this is the middle of the summer in New York, and it can get quite toasty, as Felix Felice apparently just found out.
It can. Up here in the Finger Lakes region of New York, we think of northern New York as getting very, very cold in the winter, which it does, but it's like Pennsylvania in a way. It's a very temperate place. You can go skiing in upstate New York in the winter, and in the summer you can go down to the Finger Lakes and do all sorts of water activities in the summer. So there's far worse places to live. It could be California, where it's just hot all the time.
I don't know about that. It only just recently started getting warm enough where I could wear shorts again to go out. It was.
And what temperature does that consist of for you?
It was warmer in Philly last weekend than it was in the Bay Area, Joey. So
it's the Bay Area. That's barely California. That's like a part of Scandinavia.
It's California. I didn't check what the weather in Lewisburg was, but I can assume that was equally terrible.
It probably was.
Not as bad as it was in like Utah and places where it was snowing in the middle of April. So don't complain, Joey. Don't you complain.
I can't complain. I love the weather here. It is a little bit bipolar. It was like 80 degrees today, and it's going to snow on Thursday, so that doesn't make much sense. What does make sense, though, is Colin McKenzie back on the new livery. I believe there's a lot of puzzle pieces on there. I believe that is for April, which is an awareness month that I should remember that I don't remember, that I need to go check Discord.
Look at you.
I think that's what Colin McKenzie is supporting.
I did see a ribbon on the front. Maybe there's some cancer stuff in there as well. Apparently, April is Stress Awareness Month, Move More Month, featuring National Walking Day.
Jason Ahrensberg, who I believe, he's down in 21st. I think he said April is Autism Awareness Month, and that usually aligns with the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
I don't know if Colin McKenzie's the same livery there, but that's what the Ahrensberg team has been.
Well, I tell you what, it's different colors, but it's pretty similar.
Yeah. Sporting all sorts of good causes in the PRL. It's what we like to see.
Corey Davis up to 9th position. That is the nice thing. I'm always looking forward to when Lunatic Racing comes with some new colors. Hopefully SimCity Racing have got Sean Dickinson some new colors as well. Otherwise, they're in for some slandering on the RaceSpotTV broadcasts in about an hour's time.
I'm a big fan of this color, not just because Corey Davis is from Pennsylvania, but because this is easily differentiable. It's candy apple, shiny red. We don't see enough of these just shiny, glossy colors on iRacing. This looks like the kind of car that somebody would run on Forza 6 in an online session. It does not look like an iRacing car, and I love it.
Didn't someone write a song about a candy apple Lamborghini?
Is the little red Corvette, maybe?
Oh, that's not a bad one, actually. But it's Corvette's yellow. It's yellow. Sorry. That's Ryan Luna, I'm pretty sure. Just because my timing screen said Ryan Luna was off the track, and, well, if everyone else was on the track, then surely it was the one guy pointed the wrong direction.
I think we also saw Matt Hilton off the road in the background there, so we're in the dying minutes of this session. Everybody's trying to extract those last little bits of speed. And in that part of the track, especially coming out of the toe of the boot, it is so easy to spin the car as the elevation change, as the balance of weight just shifts around in the car. Corey Davis, I don't think is going to improve on this lap. He's had some draft from the Ferrari in front of him.
It's been too close, though.
Yeah, he's not getting any help from Russell Elizondo there. He's just getting held up as he goes for a dive through the final corner for old time's sake, and that's going to be the end of his lap.
And Elizondo hits the wall for good measure, flashes the lights, which we know means that he's very happy with the candy apple number 76 Lamborghini. So, 22 seconds left to go. And I think we're basically into those dying stages. Gary Brown looks like he might be on a half-decent lap in his number 49 Porsche 911, but he's still got half the lap to go. Errol Orexoy, 300ths clear of Justin Delano, who sits in pit lane and watches to see if the Audi finds even more time.
Go up through the final little part of the boot. The most difficult part of the boot, in my opinion, is a very late apex, and it's almost a plateau of a corner. You rise up, it becomes flat. So difficult to find the apex there. Then through the second to last corner here. Do have to go for a big lift in these GT3 cars, and you saw Urexoy get all sorts of understeery there. Not going to be a great final sector for him. I don't predict much improvement here. He doesn't need any improvement, though. Let's see what he can do with the line. Nope, no improvement, but doesn't matter. He's got pole unless Gary Brown has something.
So there will be a chance for Gary Brown to try and grab what will be a second consecutive pole position after a flying lap back at the Red Bull Ring, but he exits stage right to what is a pit entry that's worth talking about, given that you enter on the racing line through the final corner. But I think with that, it's basically qualifying in the books. That's Jeff Carollo having some troubles in his McLaren. Corey Davis on the scene. He'll be next across the line if there is going to be any improvement, but another driver I think not tracking to set a faster time.
He does have no Russell Elizondo in front of him, though, so he's got clean track for one more lap here, coming through the final corner. Not going to go for an actual lap there, though. He's just doing a little bit of pit entry practice, which is always a good thing, because like Arjuna said, I have personally experienced many races where you need to make sure you call out your pit entry. It is very tricky, it's very fast, it's very easy to get hit by somebody who doesn't expect you coming up behind. Karan just crosses the line. P6, nice.
And he found 3/10, so it goes to show that at a track where draft is so important, you don't always need it to set the fast lap times, but you always know it is going to be close. Evan Smogor, well, he leads the championship, but he's going to roll off from 12th position, as I think that is going to be qualifying basically done and dusted, unless Trevor Houston has something to say about it, but no, that's not a lap time improvement.
Not quite, not quite. Just needs to find 13 seconds on that next lap. I don't think this McLaren is on a real lap
Definitely
here. Chet
not.
Miller, just about 5 minutes 30 off the pace. He'll find that there. But up on top, this is big. Aero Urexoy, first pole ever. It's clinched.
Ever?
Ever.
Wow. Now that's not something I'd believe, given that he's a stalwart of the series.
Yeah. It's been a lot of seconds. It's been a lot of top fives, but he's finally beat everybody in qualifying. Big achievement. Now can he get that first win?
You had to bring up all those seconds, didn't you?
I did. I mean, he's thinking about him too. When you start from pole for the first time, you want to get that first win. Those other second places are ringing in your mind.
So I've commentated on my fair share of races without the bus stop chicane. Now we are using it. It does mean that pole position actually means something, in my opinion, compared to when you don't have that chicane and you blast your way a couple of 100 meters further down in towards the S's at a bit more fast speed, and it allows the draft to play a bit more of a factor. Can Errol Orexoy convert this first pole position into some sort of success? We're about to find out, but with a 1:44.353, it will be the Vulture Motorsports Audi that leads us to the green. He'll have Justin Delano alongside in the Scuderia Spizzino East number 38, just 300s off, while Gary Brown coming from downtown to uptown once more. Colin McKenzie alongside in the Autism Awareness colored car. Eric Kulaga, the first of the fours, alongside with Nicholas Karangis. It's Jay Steffi behind the other of the blue ovals in the top 10, with Matt Dinsmore and Matt Scherf. Although having said that, add a third Ford into the mix, Rafael Franco joins the equation on the outside of row 5. Corey Davis and Evan Smogor line up in 11th and 12th positions, with Andre Bernardi and J.R. Gregory behind them. It's Dale Peterson in the Ferrari lining up in 15th. He has Matt Hilton in the BMW alongside, while Steven Martinez rolls from 17th. Greg Doucette in the Lamborghini from 18th. To complete your top 20, it's Christopher Rines and Rodrigo Morales in the We Race Esports McLaren. Luke Davis and then Regan Chandler, the first to the Chandlers, share row number 11. It's Jason Aaronsberg and Buck Hamilton on row 12, while lining up in 25th, David Morse has Jeff Carollo for company. Phil Amaro, Alex Wright, Michael Kulaga, and then Trevor Houston. That's the top 30, but we continue to go because we've got about 44 cars getting ready to rumble. Joachim Backer, Frank Johnson, Ryan Lunar, Mark Bray. That's through the front 17 rows, and then Ryan Chandler has a lot of work to do to latch on to the back in the battle of the Chandlers. Chad Dick starts in 36th position, with behind them in 37th, Felix Felice and Rodrigo Michelin, Nicholas Herrera, Russell Elizondo, Sean Mulholland, Waldo Walden, and then our final row of the grid, Chet Miller and Sam Hill. Get ready to go at the tail end of what's going to be an interesting race start for them, but I'm sure for everyone in the field just trying to hold on here, Joey.
Turn 1 at Watkins Glen is always a little bit of a pinch point in every single series. You always see people getting a little bit too aggressive. We've seen plenty of our fair share of bowling balls into turn 1, but the critical point is going to be once we ride up that hill, once we ride down that long back straight, when we get into the bus stop, it is high speed. It's some of the highest speeds you can do through any corner on the calendar, and you're basically guaranteed to be going side by side with somebody. So I hope you've you've practiced running side by side with somebody through there at least once. You're aware of your surroundings because it is exceptionally difficult to go side by side through the bus stop, especially on lap 1.
Cold tires, definitely a factor. Cold brakes as well, let's not forget. And in some occasions, cold brains as well, but hopefully that will not prove to be the case here today. Errol Orexoy, Justin Delano will have the best opportunities to get a decent run, of course, but we know how important fuel mileage is, Joey. We expect these cars to all dive down to pit lane one time today.
Yeah, with the amount of straight lines at a place like this, fuel mileage is going to be a very, very important thing. You might not even want to lead the race necessarily. If you have the pace, you might just be able to hang back in second in the draft, save a little bit of fuel, and with saving a little bit of fuel, that means a shorter pit stop, and that means potentially you don't even have to make the move on track. You can make it into the pits. That's a strategy that we've seen plenty of drivers use to their effect here, because in the PRL, in the GT3 series, you're not going to change tires in the pit stop. The races simply aren't long enough for the tires to wear in any meaningful way, so it's all about that fuel saving. That's the only strategy you can really pull here.
Pit window usually opens around, 15 or so minutes into the race. Given that we spend so much of the lap full throttle here, don't be surprised if maybe we see cars coming in a bit early. Let's not forget that we talk so much about the run up through the S's into the bus stop. The boot is equally treacherous, Joey. We're coming out up towards the toe, and out of the toe in towards the heel of the boot. And the thing to remember is that these are corners that camber in and out very quickly, and so you've got to make sure you're on the right line at the right time, especially knowing how common side-by-side will be.
Got to be very, very aware, especially in some of these rear-engine cars. The car does like to loop around, especially coming out of the toe of the boot, coming up over the top of the hill here as well in turn 9. They're very, very dicey corners. You got to make sure the tires are warmed up first and foremost, because any sort of oversteer, any sort of instability, it's going to be even worse on lap 1 on the cold tires.
Prediction, Joey, who comes out on top in about 35 minutes time?
Good question. I refuse to pick because I don't want to curse anybody, but it could be anybody. We've had 3 different winners this season.
Sitting on the fence. Well, will it be 4 from 4? We're about to find out. We split our attention across of Watkins Glen and Harath here on a Tuesday night. First up, it's a focus on the GT3 fixed drivers, and Errol Orexoy with his first ever pole position sees the green flag at Watkins Glen International, and down the hill into the 90 he leads, single file for the top 6 or so, and then funneling behind it will start to build up kinetic energy as we work up the hill into the heavy braking zone at the bus stop, just trying to make sure that we survive the first time by.
Very, very smart start there by you, Rexoy. Went early, made sure not to pack up the field too much, and that's really helped everybody, because I look back, 44 cars, nobody involved in any sort of incident in turn 1. So we funnel into the bus stop now. Who's going to be the first driver to make it side by side? Looks like nobody's interested so far, but if you look further back, some folks are being forced to.
They all sort of have got it figured out. Just as we say that, a couple more drivers coming back into shot more aggressively than maybe you would want. But out of the outer loop, down into the boot for the very first time. Still Orexoy trying to break away, and already 6/10 or so clear of Gary Brown, who jumped Justin Delano in the other of the Porsches inside of the top 4 at the start of the race. Outside of that, though, no changes inside of your top 7.
And it's been a tale of 2 seasons for the first 3 races. Gary Brown and Colin McKenzie in the top 4 right now. Both of them have won races, but in the other 2 races that they didn't win, they were not so far up there. And then if you look a little bit further back, Evan Smoger, who won, he's currently running in P13. It's not been a great lap 1 for him.
Well, as we come to the end of the opening lap, about 21 or so estimated. Ryan Chandler unfortunately finds himself stricken and dropping to the very tail end of the field, but for Errol Orexoy, converts his first pole position into the lead at the end of the first lap. Gary Brown right back on the bumper now and trying to use that draft to the best of his ability. Delano, McKenzie, Kulaga, the rest of the top 5.
It's critical right now for Gary Brown to stick with Urexoy. He's definitely got the pace. They were separated by less than 1/10 of a second in qualifying. Just got to make sure not to lose that draft, and if he wants to, use it to his advantage, save a little bit of fuel. Corey Davis a little bit further back seems to be getting aggressive here, coming up through the S's. it's a case of timing coming up through there. You don't want to catch the driver in front too early because you're not going to be able to use it down the back straight if you get slowed up in the S's. I think Davis was a little bit too aggressive there, didn't necessarily get the momentum he needed, so he's going to have to funnel back into P9 and wait for another chance at Matt Scherf.
The Matt Scherf fan club, by the way, as always, out in force in our YouTube chat here tonight. But a bit of separation had built momentarily. It's now Davis looking in the rearview mirrors as Matt Dinsmore tries to latch onto the back. When we talk about the pit stop cycle here, let's not forget that we are going to need pockets for drivers to funnel on into, and well, it's all starting to kick off further back. Frank Johnson has been escorted off the track, but this is just inside of your top 30 or so. Pretty physical with the lunatic racing car of Alex Wright running in front of Trevor Houston and David Morse side by side up the hill.
And this into turn 8 is one of the best passing opportunities on the track. People don't necessarily think of it, but there was Trevor Houston diving into the inside of Alex Wright. Wright tried to shut him down, wasn't quite clear, and Houston threw the nose in there. Luckily, no contact made, but turn 8's one of the best passing opportunities on the track, and you'll be seeing a lot more aggression like that in the next 30 minutes.
I get the sense we're going to see plenty of aggression, period, because it's already seeming a bit feisty. Let's see if we can pick up a couple of replays as we wind to the end of lap number 2 then, and let's start with what happened to Ryan Chandler. Already in contact with one of the Flying Line Racing cars on the entry, and then from there, all by himself, the front end into the wall, and hopefully not any engine damage as a result.
That was very weird. He barely clipped the curb, but just completely lost the rear end there. That was exactly what I was talking about. On cold tires on lap 1, even just barely touching the curb there, just set everything off.
Ooh.
Frank Johnson, on the other hand, way too much speed there, coming down into the heel of the boot. Loops the Ferrari around, but I don't think he actually hit anything there. If he did touch the wall, it was very, very light.
Definitely think he got some left rear but damage as a result, but I think you're right. Overall, limited the damage. David Morse now in front of Trevor Houston as they swap on the run up into the bus stop chicane, so it's good to know that even with a slightly reduced draft that you can still get the slingshot if you set it up nicely, which is ultimately what we want the drivers to be doing. Well, if you want to know how Ryan Chandler is getting on right now, Joey, I present to you what is going to win awards as the best camera angle in the world.
Wow. That's beautiful. I'm blinded. I'm blinded by its beauty.
The good thing is now by default, well, good thing if you're a Regan fan and not a Ryan fan, is that it's Regan that leads the battle of the Chandlers, and at least we can get a look at his face.
Yeah, I want to know if Ryan Chandler was deliberate in that or if that was a mistake. Because if that was deliberate, I'm a big fan. That's very funny. If it was an accident, less so. So if you're listening, Ryan, make sure you take credit for that because that's very funny.
I get the sense it started off fine, and then there was some force that moved the camera.
That might be the case, but I'm very happy about it. I hope he doesn't shutter that one. I hope he doesn't shutter and shut it down.
Well, that's a look to the inside by Luke Davis on Rodrigo Morales. This for 20th position as they come out of the 90 and sweep their way up the hill. Already up into the bus stop, you can see the top 3 breaking away from McKenzie, who's then got further separation to Colago in the first of the Fords. Jay Steffi runs 7th to make it 2 of those Fords that run inside of your top 10. Apparently we haven't done enough to kill them with fire yet.
We haven't, but Justin Delano, I was thinking, is he from upstate New York? Because Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he was from upstate New York, spent a lot of time there, but no, Justin Delano is from Ohio. This is unfortunately not a home race for him, but maybe it will be in the future. Maybe he'll move down because it's certainly treating him pretty well so far as we ride on board with him.
You made an effort to try and make some connection there, didn't you?
Yes, I searched for the connection and I was miserably shut down by Ohio, as I usually am.
I mean, I'm trying to... I've driven through Ohio before.
Mid-Ohio is a pretty great track.
Oh, I haven't
Ohio
driven
does
through.
have some redeeming qualities.
I haven't driven on Mid-Ohio. I've just driven through Ohio, you know? But the thing that I remember about it was that there was a crash, and so I got delayed.
Classic.
The funny thing is when I'm watching sports on various TV channels, they have ads about Ohio now.
Just about Ohio, just tourism ads?
No. About how everyone should move there and work there.
Yeah, I mean, they got to get people there somehow. Justin Delano will be welcoming you.
speaking of welcoming, it's not such a fond welcome that you have when you get swarmed a little bit on the start. That's something that we didn't really have, and you mentioned it, because of the way that Erexoi took the start and kind of separated the field out before they got even down in towards turn number 1. Some might complain about it if it doesn't always help them out, but ultimately we like to be safe.
We do like to be safe. So did Matt Dinsmore get a little bit swarmed on lap 1? Did he get jumped a little bit?
He lost 2 positions.
Ah.
Not ideal.
Not ideal, and you can just get caught napping at that point. Some leaders do elect to go very, very early. Some leaders do just wait a little bit longer, pack up the field a little bit, but Erexoi did basically say the second the pace car is pulling off, I am going, and he returns to good driving there. We come back to Ryan Chandler here. The shutters and the blinds are gone. He has reset the camera, so he must be listening to the broadcast, and he's doing a little bit of extracurricular activity while he's driving.
Credit as well. That's full commitment to the broadcast to make sure that we get everything that we need. So always lovely to see Luke Davis and Rodrigo Morales. They're side by side on their run up in towards the end of the boot section. Almost some contact between the McLaren and the BMW when it allows the lunatic racing car of Luke Davis to squeak on through for the time being. But Regan Chandler, Jason Arensberg, Buck Hamilton, Jeff Carollo, Alex Wright, David Morse, they're all in the mix as well. And the problem with being out front is, even though these drivers are only 15 seconds back, the pit lane delta is not the largest here, and so you'll be worried if you try to do anything with pit strategy about coming straight into this hornet's nest.
Yeah, right now, if you're the leaders, you're going to get stuck back here, basically. But if you are somebody like Luke Davis, you might start thinking about pitting right now, because he's far lower in the order than he normally is. He's finished second twice this season. This is not going that well for him, and he's not going to make 19 passes to get back up there on his own. So now that he's cleared the roadblock of Rodrigo Morales in a way, he might think about an alternate pit strategy now as we take a look at the 42 there of Nicholas Herrera going around at the top of the hill. Lamborghini things, even 10 minutes into the race, especially at that corner, it's so easy to loop it around. It's so easy to lose the balance.
They were almost 3 wide there, and Jason Arensberg has taken 22nd position, as was that was Buck Hamilton with a huge smash, bodywork flying everywhere, and now the 57 surely coming back down to pit lane.
If he was in an Audi, that level of front impact would have been fine, but he's in the Ferrari, so that is destructamundo there for Buck Hamilton. Surprisingly driving very, very well. I can't imagine that steering wheel is very straight, but it looks like it could be far worse.
We'll see what happened to him in a moment, as pressure still being applied to Erexoi at the front. Here's what happened, and it's on the exit, the second part. And it's the little bit of a snap on the inside curb, and all by himself, Buck Hamilton loses that front clip of the car.
He tried to correct it once, and he had it saved, but then he overcorrected it in that slide, yeets it over into the wall. Heavy impact to the front end there, and that is guaranteed to be a pit stop for him, as further back in the ankle of the boot there, Sam Hill goes around, and Ryan Chandler, well done avoiding that.
Yeah, so it's, again, all starting to kick off. And I wonder now if that means it might kick off for the lead as well. But, having just said that Erexoi was feeling the pressure, gets a great run out of turn number 1. And now 9 odd tenths clear of Gary Brown. Now Delano fills the rear view mirrors. Will he elect to pull to the inside on their run up to the bus stop? No, he will not. He stays in line for the time being. And the status quo remains.
He could definitely not really afford to go for that move there. If he went side by side with Gary through the bus stop, that would have essentially taken them both out of draft range of Erexoi. So Delano did the very smart thing. I think he even gave Gary Brown a little bit of a bump draft down the back straight and just made sure that both of them were keeping conversation with the win instead of just fighting too hard over second, which is the very, very smart thing to do, as Matt Dinsmore takes a peek at his fellow Matt Scherf down there into the ankle of the boot. Very smartly backs out of it, though. You do not want to send it in there with half a nose to the inside. That
was a bit half-hearted, wasn't it? Now, I've been doing a lot of broadcast shows, so my mind is scrambled. Is that also a new livery for Vulture Motorsports?
I don't know.
Okay.
Matt Scherf, I think that's the same paint scheme Matt Scherf has run all season.
Maybe
we unfortunately
it's a new paint scheme
not
for
seen
this
it as
season.
much.
That's the thing. Because I feel like last season he was in a different car.
Yeah, he was in an Audi last season.
That too. I meant colors. Yes, anyway. I've got 9 broadcasts this week, Joey. I didn't even realize it.
And how many have you already done this week?
We're on Tuesday, right? So this is my second.
All right, we might kill Arjuna this week. We got to make sure we keep him alive here, so he's here next week. 9 more broadcasts. You'll be just fine. We'll get Rafael Franco to show up and a couple others with that bright yellow Ford.
Well, you know what doesn't help is when I have to see things like that. Regan Chandler, we were just talking and singing his praises. It's all come to an end, and it's all kicking off again. Jeff Carollo, Jason Ahrensberg, they were side by side for a moment. And again, almost 3 wide outside of their top 25.
These two have not been able to avoid each other. Trevor Houston and a whole horde of BMWs. He's just getting swamped back here. And look at that, who's behind him. That's Joachim Backer. But first and foremost, that's Rodrigo Morales going around, and Chandler tries to avoid him but clips the grass.
And I tell you what happens as well. There's a banana peel thrown out in the form of a bumper, and it bonk. Well, you know the Mario reference I'm going for there. But
yes.
There's nothing you can do in that situation, unfortunately, sometimes. And, well, that is Regan Chandler done and dusted for the race, while Ryan Chandler continues to cycle around. JR Gregory and Steven Martinez are side by side. Watkins Glen, you say it's the best track in the world. The one thing that we know is there's going to be plenty of fighting.
And especially in the boot. A lot of people criticize the boot, and I don't get it because it's a fantastic piece of racing circuit. The constant switchbacks mean one corner you're on the inside, next corner you're on the outside, then you're back on the inside again. It is just a fantastic place to run side by side with somebody. And Steven Martinez, it was textbook. He switched back from the inside to the outside, back to the inside again, and took care of JR Gregory, and now he's got a Porsche length ahead of his fellow Porsche, and through the final corner, JR Gregory's going to have to wait until the back straight to even think about another shot.
I just don't like Watkins Glen. I mean, I enjoy it. It's the same thing with Daytona. I like going to Daytona once a year and then never seeing it ever again.
Watkins Glen is so much fun. Any car you take here from, well, obviously it's all going to be road course vehicles, but it is fantastic. Open wheel, closed wheel, stock car.
I have PTSD from... so one of the problems that sometimes you have with coming to Watkins Glen is that this is a feisty old tussle for 11th. Oh, and Andre Bonatti as the second We Race Esports McLaren in about 3 laps that's had some strife, and that's a big one.
That was a very big one. It's the fastest part of the track. If you hit the inside curb just barely wrong, it's going to send you spinning like that. It's a new curb with the new scan of Watkins Glen here, but there he goes. Just gets a little bit too hard in the curb, and he's at full speed there, basically, and turns into a Frisbee in the safer barrier. He took a peek to the inside of Rafael Franco here. Wasn't actually trying to go for the move, but just distracted himself a little bit, hit the curb wrong, and at that point, you're just along for the ride.
It's one of those situations where you're half trying to just defend from someone else as well, and half trying to show your nose. That's a disappointment. Regan Chandler jumps in to say, go get him, Ryan Chandler. So there's not enough competitiveness against them enough, clearly, Joey. So we got to pit them against each other.
We're gonna send those guys to Philadelphia with all that brotherly love. I don't want that. I want inter-family rivalry.
Is that what Pittsburgh's all about? Oh, is this a pit stop?
Hitter, but I don't think Greg Doucette knew that.
Well, it's not just JR Gregory, it's Steven Martinez as well, with 19 minutes left on the clock. So I think it's the earliest we've seen pit stops so far this season.
It might just be. I hope that JR Gregory announced that over the radio. I think that's Sean Mulholland going around at the back. He's had some trouble so far today, but you can use the radio in the PRL. You are encouraged to call out your pit entries because it's a very, very dicey final quarter, and Greg Doucette was very, very smart there to get on the brakes and avoid any contact.
I think Jeff Carollo has just had major drama, and we'll see if we can pick up what happened to him. Evan Smogor, by the way, our championship leader, right in the thick of things. This is outside of your top 10. He's got Rafael Franco in front in the Ford that rejoins its way back onto the track as Smogor tries to find his way to the inside. Rear end of the Ford steps out, and Smogor dives his way on through. Dale Peterson will try and follow.
How about that? Evan Smogor, the Intimidator, didn't actually go for the dive, just attempted to go for the dive and forced Franco into a mistake there. That's some textbook intimidation there as we see Jeff Carollo here on the left side getting it all sorts of wrong through turn 1. And that is a kablamo into the turn 1 wall. Again, just once you barely lose the rear end of these cars, you basically just got to lock the brakes into the runoff or else you're losing it like that.
You know what's happening here, right, Joey? The
Calamity?
No, the McLarens have decided that they do not want to be driven anymore. How do we get the memo to the Ford so they decide they don't want to be driven either?
But I want the Fords to still be driven.
No, you
I don't want to lose the Fords.
You want the new Mustang GT3 to come.
That is true. That is true.
It does. Did you see some of the footage of that car being tested?
I did. So I would be very happy to have the Mustang GT3, but I kind of want to have it in conjunction with the GT. Maybe sort of like a grandfather and son racing against each other. Kill
the GT, the fake GT3 car. Kill the McLaren, the bad GT3 car. And let's get the new ones. McLaren, it's not even the 720. We've gone through like 4 generations of McLaren GT3 cars. Like, okay, we're getting besides the point because there are many fantastic GT3 cars that we could have added to iRacing. Let us know in chat what your pick of the litter would be. Alex writes, more focused on Michael Kuglaga though. They're side by side up and through the S's. Trevor Houston's got some momentum as well. Noah's Ark into the bus stop.
Trevor Houston, is he going to go around the outside here? He can't really back out because Joachim Bacher is behind him, but eventually they single file it out. That was crazy stuff, and eventually you're going to get to the point of the race in about 15 minutes time where you're not going to back out of those moves. You're going to have to go side by side if you want those positions, and we will just start to have a little bit less order and a little bit more aggression through the bus stop, and that always ends in tears for some people.
Are you saying you wouldn't back her out of it?
Yes.
That was terrible. That was really bad. I tried, Joey. Are you happy? This is what commentating with you does.
I'm glad that I'm infecting you. It's working well. I just want him to go for another move though, so I can think of another opportunity there.
Just be worried, everyone. It spread like The Last of Us. The puns are coming for you too.
Rexoy's in. Everybody's in.
Oh, this is going to be the magic lap. And, well, maybe not, because Karangis, Davis, Dinsmore will go at least 1 lap longer, but still got 15.5 minutes to go. Look at the gap between Rexoy Brown and Delano, though. Barely put a pixel between them.
It's non-existent, as some of our favorite dirt track announcers would say. You could put a blanket over the top 3. It's going to come down to fuel saving. It's going to come down to who's just used the most fuel. It's going to come down to milliseconds here. Let's see, can Rexoy beat them all off of pit lane here? No, Gary Brown beats them both. Is Rexoy going to fall to 3rd? He is. Delano gets around him as well.
It's a margin that Gary Brown's got as well, I tell you. It's going to be, what, 1.5 seconds or so, and he will have gotten on to the power a bit earlier, maybe able to stretch the margin to Delano. See how much it checks on up. It was 7 cars or so that initially stayed out. Michael Kulaga, Filamaro, Ryan Luna, then also cycled past your net race leaders. 1.3 seconds separates the 2 Porsches at the front, though, as they head into the bus stop with tires still coming up to temperature and pressure.
And that's the shortest stop of anybody in the field right now for Gary Brown. That's the only drivers who are even close to him was Eric Kalaga, who was in the box for 12.8 seconds, so he saved some fuel in the Ford, but that's some incredible fuel mileage. And Aero Urexoy, your race leader, 2 seconds slower in the box than Gary Brown. Whether that's saving or using fuel or whether that's just overfilling the car afterwards, I don't know. But like I said, it can all come unraveled in pit lane. And now if Urexoy wants to win his first race, he's got to make 2 overtakes here. He's not in control.
This is what we were talking about previously in the season. I don't think we mentioned it too much today, but leading the pack is not always what you want to do because you're punching the hole in the air for everyone else to then save the fuel. And so Rexoy's been doing the hard work, and now, well, he's got even more hard work. He's got to get past on track in a battle for the lead where we've seen no swap around so far. Field down onto pit lane, though. The 7 or so that initially stayed out for 1 lap longer, and now we'll wait for Kalaga, Amaro, Luna all to dive their way on in. Rodrigo Michelin in the Lamborghini stricken on the rejoining onto the regular layout of the Watkins Glen circuit, but as he bonks his way back into the wall, Rexoy's still trying to latch on to those around him, but where is Karangis and company going to cycle out?
Karangis right side by side with Kalaga here. Karangis came in 5th, but the fuel saving of Eric Kalaga is going to work out for him here in that Ford around the outside through the first part of the S's. He is going to be clear. He's got to get it slowed down not to hit the wall, though. Has got P5 back from Karangis, though, so good fuel saving from Kalaga. Saved half a second over the course of the lane. That's all he needed. He leads this secondary train now.
And so we'll now get to see plenty of other issues, as that's a huge one for Steven Martinez. Still rolling the wrong direction, but on the anchor is able to slow it down and will now try and spin it around in time, although he's got to watch the rejoin. Jason Arensberg does a good job to get on through safely.
Yeah, well done, Jason Arensberg there. I think Martinez was intending to keep it on the right side, but kind of failed at that, as Alex Wright has gone off as well.
And that was up through the S's, I'm pretty sure.
Oh dear, I think that's what happened to Martinez as well. I think he got some help right after the end of the S's, potentially from Dale Peterson. It's not necessarily a corner. You are flat out through there, but the second you're side by side with other cars, you're not flat out. You do still need to leave room, and sometimes it's a little bit too much of a pinch point.
Let's see if we can grab a look at some replays then. And cycle through some more chaos in Watkins Glen, and oh, you're right, aren't you? Yep, there's going to be... I don't think Peterson does much wrong there.
Yeah, Peterson did nothing wrong. Martinez he just turned right a little bit too much, made contact with Peterson, got a little bit out of shape, and I think he got some help from the Porsche behind him. But that right there, that is just BMW on BMW violence up through the S's, and well done to the Audi of Ryan Luna there for doing some rallycross to avoid all of that. Oh, never mind.
No, I was
he did not
say,
avoid it in the first place.
He did definitely got tagged, but my days, those are some hellacious hits right there. And I don't think that was all of it. I think that was Phil Amaro as well that got mixed up. Felix Felice in the Lamborghini got tussled on a subsequent sort of aftermath sort of brush.
Oh. Got hit by a ghost.
I don't even think that was a ghost. I think if we jump on board, we'll see that he tries to react to a car that resets.
Yeah, he got stuck in the rut on the curb there. That is such an awkward place to hit. Feliz means happy in Spanish, and Felix is not going to be that.
Neither is Greg Doucette, because he's around in the Throttle Thursday Lamborghini.
Somehow he's found a perfectly fine place to park that car. He's got to wait for literally the whole field to go by, though, to back out on track, because that is a completely blind corner. He's basically parked in a runoff area, but that is a weird place to go off. He clearly lost it through the bus stop and was able to save it, but for better or for worse, he's going all the way to the back of the field.
Do you want more drama, Joey?
Absolutely. Arensberg here, did he lose it?
Well, he loses it, but he puts all the pieces of the puzzle together. See what I did there?
Yeah. Well done, Jason Arensberg. Well done, Arjuna, too, but more well done, Jason Arensberg. A beautiful drift there through the carousel.
It was very, very well handled. Now let's go see what happened to Greg Doucette, because this probably was a bit less well handled.
Through the bus stop, one curb, Lamborghini goes loop-de-loop. I expected him to be a little bit further to the left there and saving it, but no, he did not save it. He had a big face full of wall there, and his teammate Nicholas Karangis just went around as well.
I felt that hit. Is Karangis going to be able to get up and go? Oh, and now Rafael Franco will be the next one to come a cropper of turn number one. They're all falling like flies.
They are. It's like we're in the Finger Lakes in the middle of the summer and we're swatting mosquitoes out of the air. It's just disastrous. Franco has taken a tow. That Ford is destroyed. Karangis has gotten going again. It doesn't look like he has much damage, so what happened to him in turn one here? Did he get hit? No, he just lost it on his own. Yes, he did. He got a little bit of help there from Jay Steffi behind, but he was already losing it on his own.
Yes, he was going to go... Oh, he doesn't hit the wall either, so credit there. But he was going to go around no matter what. Then Rafael Franco, so common if you bounce over that curb too aggressively. Fixed setup as well, so let's not forget these drivers can't really get the suspension dialed in the way that maybe they would want. Frustration for so many, and given that we can't see a car, the camera clearly is in a position where it's not expecting that car to be, and that was Rodrigo Morales, who's lost again the front clip on his McLaren.
Is that every We Race Esports car out of the race now?
Well, Rodrigo Morales has already had issues today, hasn't he?
He has. I think he didn't have issues through the bus stop. Bonatti did, but I think
he had already lost the front.
Yep, same place that Bonatti crashed before, with a little bit of front-end damage as well. We Race Esports is not racing anymore. Let's ride on board, just for the heck of it.
Just look at the way that curb throws the car as well. I mean, I don't know what you can expect the driver to do.
Yeah, I think that's just... The McLaren is kind of an awkward car. It's very, very old. It doesn't necessarily take to curbs very well, and unfortunately that's bitten quite a few... That's bitten both of the We Race Esports drivers, and it's bitten a fair share of non-McLaren drivers as well, as Delano has a slowdown, I think.
Yep, and that's going to give Arexoy his chance to try and grab second. Delano maybe has more problems because his technical stuff starting to play up a little bit now. Gap for the lead has come down to 1.2 or so. 7 minutes left. I would assume probably 4 laps still to play after this one. Could Errol Arexoy get back towards the front?
He's going to need to have some absolutely rapid laps here. He found speed in qualifying, so he's definitely got the pace in the tank, but he needs to bring that gap down to 6 tenths or so to be back within real draft range to really have any chance at Gary Brown. He's not got much time to do it, but Arexoy has had the pace in the past. He's had the pace today. Gary Brown has made mistakes in the past. Anything can happen.
Jamil Brown says, another McLaren crash. SMH, shaking my head. We should start a counter. Or should we start a counter? I do a rallycross league with some other broadcasters on Sunday, Joey, and do you know how much fun it is to be able to say, add 1 to the flip counter, and then have the flip counter actually get updated?
I love a good scoreboard. We need more of them.
The best part is that we've now had to start trying to do guesstimations on if it was a half flip, if it was 0.5, 0.6, 0.75, you know, we're trying to be accurate. We're impartial flip counter adjudicators.
You're like gymnastics judges. That's like what I used to do back on Need for Speed Most Wanted. I would see which cars would flip the most, and I remember the BAC Mono was very, very good at flipping, and Errol Arexoy, fantastic turn 1 there. He's brought that gap down below a second.
I mean, if there is reduction in the draft, Arexoy's not got the memo, but in towards the first part of the bus stop, that Porsche just handles the corners maybe a little bit better initially. Arexoy is going to still have to work hard. Joey, if you like flipping cars, I assume you've tried Forza Horizon.
I haven't, actually. I've never been a fan of the open world stuff, as Colin McKenzie has fallen out of the world and fallen out of the top 5. He's the next victim of the bus stop.
Was he a victim of the bus stop?
Or did he get a slowdown at turn 1?
Well, I wondered if it was a slowdown. Let's go find out. That's a bump.
Oh.
And, I mean, kudos. He doesn't die.
Did he hit the wall, though, is my question. I don't see any visible damage, so if he saved that, that is an absolutely remarkable accomplishment. He did. Well done, Colin McKenzie. Extremely heads-up driving there to immediately get on the brakes and to not overcorrect. That could have been far worse.
He seemed to know how to rejoin the track as well. So clearly that's something that's happened in practice.
Yeah, I think he might have made that mistake a couple of times before, which, you know, that's the best way to learn. You got to make the mistakes so you can expect them.
Well, now he gets a fight for 4th position, as Nicholas Carangis has a second bit of drama in the 311. And that's 2 or 3 bonks into the wall, and surely he's going to have plenty of damage to now have to fight back on from. Gary Brown, though, as we cross the line, leads by 1.5 odd seconds from Errol Arexoy. And Arexoy seems to do a great job in the first sector to close that gap down, but Brown stretches his legs. That Porsche working a bit better in the middle and final sectors.
And Gary Brown might have a little bit lower of a fuel load here because he took less fuel in the stop, whether that meant he had to fill the tank less to get to an equal point to Arexoy, or if Arexoy just overfueled the car, we don't know, but Brown is likely running a little bit lighter here. He's quite a bit faster through the final sector, through all of the tight corners of the boot. Errol Arexoy basically just needs a mistake from Gary Brown here, as we'll take a look at what happened to Carangis. It didn't start with J.R. Gregory. Carangis was losing it on his own and then lost it again.
Yeah, I was going to say it would be unfair to blame Gregory for anything there, but we'll see what Arnaud Genet has to say about that, because I'm sure the steward of the PRL will have plenty. And I tell you what, I don't really know what Michael Kulaga was thinking there as he tries to rejoin his way up the track. Somehow, Trevor Houston gets by safely.
The Lamborghini of Trevor Houston was like a tank there, just piled through. Well, he does have some damage to the right side. He's very tentative through the bus stop, so I thought he got away a little bit better than he did there, but did not quite work out for him. Kalaga was side-by-side up through the S's there with one of the Throttle Thursday Lamborghinis, loses control, tries to get back on track, but was not maintaining control of the vehicle, and Trevor Houston just gets squeezed.
And he's got, you can see, steering damage instantly.
Yep.
Yeah. Hold your brakes.
I already said Houston, we had a problem last week, so I can't bring it back.
Yeah. Well, if that becomes a common refrain, then the NASA budget's clearly going to be a major talking point.
Yeah.
Gap crew at the line, by the way. So with 2 laps to go, Gary Brown is in a great spot. Battle of the Fords sees Jay Steffi slide in front of Eric Kulaga, but now, again, slingshotting themselves up 110 feet of elevation on their rise up to the end of the bus stop. It is going to be Kulaga and McKenzie trying to get closer in this fight for 4th position.
It's about to be the hit German movie Ford versus Audi, starring Ken Miles. But Colin McKenzie not very fast in a straight line in that Audi compared to the Ford. That's the one bonus that Ford has. It is very, very quick in a straight line this season. Nothing McKenzie could really do there, but he's keeping the pressure on through the boot. If you continue to put the pressure on Kulaga, you might be able to force him into a mistake like we saw Rafael Franco do a little bit earlier. McKenzie doesn't get aggressive down into the boot, though, this time.
So you're telling me that the Ford GT is quick in a straight line and terrible through the corners?
Occasionally.
Living up to all the stereotypes of American sport cars. Trevor Houston, unfortunately, is down on pit lane. He's going to be rightfully feeling quite aggrieved. We'll see how he bounces back, I should say, in a week's time, because if this round was crazy, well, we still got a lap left to go here. We're going to Belle Isle next, Joey.
And as people say so often, you can't have anything in Detroit. They say it a little bit differently, so things are about to get very, very crazy out there. It's been a crazy season as a whole, with Gary Brown actually the first driver, or if he does win today, he'll be the first driver to have multiple wins this season. We still don't know who the championship winner is going to be. We still don't even know who the championship contenders are going to be, because it's been so diverse in terms of the drivers up front in the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
We may actually have to rename the number 49 to Uptown Gary Brown.
We might. 2 wins in a row.
Wow.
Well, I can't say 2 wins in a row yet. I don't want to jinx anything, but he's in control here. He can back off a little bit. That's how big the gap is to Urexoy.
We are definitely pushing the limits a little bit, but I'm fine with it if you are. Lewis doesn't believe in the commentator's curse. I wonder if Gary does.
I mean, if Brown loses it at this point, it is basically guaranteed to be his fault. He did just lose 0.3 of a second through the bus stop, which I think is exactly what I was talking about. He's just backing it up a little bit, doesn't want to lose it through there. He's got it under control, and there's not much Urexoy can do anymore unless Brown makes a mistake, and you cannot do that in the last lap under pressure.
Still got this fight for 4th that Jay Steffi continues to run at the front of. It's going to be 2 Fords inside of the top 5 as it runs right now. I mean, I tell you what, if that's not weird here in the year of 2023.
It's beautiful.
It's weird. And we're going to get more Fords in the GT3 Sprint Series coming up next.
I think we are. Ethan Bass is back here, so we'll see him. But it's good to see the Fords being competitive here, and Steffi and Kulaga have done a great job with those 2 this season.
Well, that's a trip over to Spain coming up next, but fully focused here on our trip up to upstate New York. It's been 3 winners in 3 races, but coming from downtown, Gary Brown will go back-to-back in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. But has he run out of fuel? Because it looked for a moment like he spluttered his way to the line. It's still 4.5 tenths, the margin at the very end. Urexoy pushed all the way to the very checkered flag. Delano grabs the final spot on the podium. But my word, what a race to kick things off.
I don't know if that was running out of fuel or if that was just Urexoy showboating a little bit, but you got my heart rate up there, Arjuna. I thought I was about to lose it.
I wasn't crazy, right? He definitely slowed down for a second.
He absolutely did. He lost about 0.7 of a second there through the final corner.
He did a 46.5 on the final lap. Urexoy did a 45.4. Just to put this in context, Gary Brown has still continued around the rest of the lap, so maybe fuel not a concern.
I think he might have just been showboating a little bit.
My heart rate is now pounding a little bit as well. Credit to all involved, because even though this was one race that we were a little bit worried about, 44 drivers took to the green, we're still going to have 30 come across the line on the lead lap, and a couple of them fighting tooth and nail all the way to the checkered.
I think that was Felix Feliz potentially, or one of his teammates, side by side all the way to the line. No, it's Waldo Walden actually, at the line between Waldo Walden and Greg Doucette for 26th, 72 thousandths of a second.
You can tell how much every single one of these positions means. When Paul Smith and myself were talking about Watkins Glen when it came to its relation to the schedule for the Porsche Tag Corey Esports Super Cup, the thing that we said is that it's maybe not a race where you're going to have to be the most technical to win, but that was the layout where basically it's just 4 corners. This layout of Watkins Glen, it does require you to be as perfect as you can be, lap after lap after lap, and after 20 of the best, it is going to be Gary Brown who did the fuel-saving game initially before springing the surprise to leapfrog both Justin Delano and Errol Arexoy to grab the victory. Half a second the margin at the end to the Audi, but after getting his very first pole position in series history, Arexoy grabs another podium to add to his stable. Justin Delano grabs third in front of the 2 4s, Jay Steffi and Eric Kulager, with Colin McKenzie, Corey Davis, Matt Scherf, Evan Smogor, and Matt Dinsmore through your top 10. Behind them, finishing in 11th, Dale Peterson in the Ferrari with J.R. Gregory, Matt Hilton, and then Christopher Rines, and Luke Davis through the top 15. 15 positions gained for Joachim Backer. David Morse behind him in 17th. It's 18 positions gained for Chad Dick, who is our biggest mover of the race. Nicholas Karangis drops down from outside, inside of the top 10 to 19th, with Buck Hamilton finishing behind him to complete your top 20, with Jason Ahrensberg, Mark Bray, Steven Martinez, Russell Elizondo, Ryan Chandler, Greg Doucette, Waldo Walden, Chet Miller, Sean Mulholland, and Nicholas Herrera all getting into the top 30. 1 lap down, it's Alex Wright in the Lunatic Racing number 33, Michael Kulaga, Trevor Houston involved in the closing stages, 32nd and 33rd. It's Ryan Luna, Rafael Franco, Rodrigo Morales, Phil Amaro, Felix Feliz, Rodrigo Michelin, Sam Hill. They're all inside of your top 40, while Jeff Carollo, Andre Bernardi, Regan Chandler, and Frank Johnson completes the field of 44 cars that took to the green flag. Not all of them in the same condition come the end of the 35 scheduled minutes of racing. It's not dawdle any longer. Downtown Gary Brown is standing by with Joey Tebbin once more.
Indeed he is. We can't even call you Downtown Gary Brown anymore. You're Uptown Gary Brown at this point, aren't you? 2 wins in a row.
Yeah, hey, how about that? That's pretty good. That was awesome. I didn't have a lot of confidence coming into this week, but I did some practice with the team yesterday and today, and obviously it worked out.
The big talking point, obviously, was those 2 seconds of fuel that you saved compared to Aero Urexoy. How did you save that much fuel in the draft, and was that your plan the whole way after starting third?
Yeah, once I was behind him, we just kind of stuck back there, and I was able to lift a lot earlier. And yeah, I guess I didn't need as much fuel to finish up, and it got out of there pretty quick. You know, I tend to have pretty quick pit stops. It did me pretty good in the last race as well. But yeah, today it really panned out.
Gary, congrats on 2 wins in a row here. We'll see you in Detroit next week, and we'll see if you are truly Uptown Gary Brown now.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Gary Brown, victorious today. Uptown, downtown, midtown, wherever he is, he's a victor either way. We've got 2nd place Aero Urexoy here. Your first pole in the PRL to start out with. What more needed to go right to get that first win?
Oh, how about that, boys? Thanks for having me. You know, I think being out front like that for so long was actually ended up turning against me, and I think the Gary and Justin behind me spent a little bit less time in the pits, and once they got in front of me out of the pits, I just couldn't get my way back. I was faster than Justin, and he let me buy him. Yeah, it was a good race.
Next week, we're circling it to be pretty crazy. We're going to Belle Isle, a street circuit, and a street circuit that isn't Long Beach. How do you think you're going to fare there, and do you predict craziness as well?
Yeah, I predict craziness. I predict lots of paint in the wall. But I love the street circuits. I was a Long Beach rookie last season. I'll be, a league racing rookie for Belle Isle this season in the GT3. So I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do there. But I feel pretty good about it.
All right, well, we will see you in Detroit next week, Errol, and congrats on the podium.
All right, thanks, guys.
Errol Urexoy, 2nd place here tonight. And I believe that's about it for us in terms of drivers here at Watkins Glen, Arjuna. Let's go get Spanish in Harath.
Well, first we get to look forward, because I think this might be even more nuts than Watkins Glen. It's going to be a last man standing Royal Rumble to survive on the streets of Detroit at a track that should not be forgotten in memory, because they're going to go somewhere else in Detroit moving forward in American open wheel racing. Belle Isle is fantastic, and we'll have plenty of fun there, Joey.
We will. We always have plenty of fun at the track that's just randomly in a park in the middle of the Detroit River, but it is a track that always puts on good races, and in GT3 machinery, It's basically like it's like what Jackie Stewart said about driving a car in a bathtub. It's pretty tough, it's pretty tight, and like Arrow said, there's going to be some paint scraped on the walls. It's guaranteed to happen.
Let's again just remind you of the schedule for this GT3 Fix Series, though, before we switch our attention over again. Halfway point reached next time out, and then we head over to the Nordschleife for 35 minutes. I'm sure that one is going to be without its fair share of drama. Harath will be seeing that in action in a few moments' time, but we'll see it for these drivers on May the 2nd to start the run to the championship. Road America, Zandvoort, and Hockenheim going to be our final round. And Joe, we know that you can't drop the final round in the championship, and the Hockenheim ring, a track fraught with danger in GT3 machines.
And it's similar to the Red Bull Ring in that there's a lot of weird places where you can get off tracks if you're not careful. You've got to make sure you're at 100% in that last week. You can drop one round in the PRL in any series, but cannot drop that final round. You've got to show up, you've got to compete, and that's why we always have those championship finales go down until the wire.
Well, with that now done, it's time for us to turn our attention back over the coast and over the ocean, over to sunny Spain, where in Harath, the drivers of the GT3 Sprint Series get their first chance at one of our newest additions to the iRacing platform, a track that's already been showcased in PRL open wheel action to have plenty of passing opportunities. Welcome to Harath as we get set to go for the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, the second half of our Tuesday night doubleheader. As mentioned, it's a bit of a split focus today. We rejoin next time out at Belle Isle. But Joey, I'm very excited about this one because bigger, weightier machines. I've seen what Formula 3 cars can do here. I don't know what GT3 cars are going to have in store for us here tonight.
It's a very tight track, but it is a track where you can definitely pass, and we're going to the Moto layout instead of the Grand Prix layout, which means no chicane a little bit later on in the track. It means another high-speed corner, another place that has the potential for mistakes. It's a classic track for a reason. Everybody's happy we have it on iRacing now, and I just want this race to start. I'm so excited that this place is here, and I'm so excited that we're taking it this early in the season.
Well, I think the thing that makes it even more exciting is the way the championship is sort of starting to sizzle its way forward. Again, another championship with 3 different winners in 3 different races. However, the best of your winners, he sits up in 8th in the championship. That's Boris Ovando, and he's tied with Elliott White and Gonzalo Cortez. It's Abner Acosta and Juan Malagon that have been the signs of consistency. Yes, only 2 top 5s apiece for each of them, but that goes to show, Joey, just how competitive the series has become here in 2023 Season 2.
It's an incredible level of talent, and no Sean Dickinson in the top 10 right now. That's pretty remarkable. He should be in the top 10. He finished 2nd in last season's championship. Again, it's all about consistency. Like we talked about with Evan Smoger in the Fix Series, hasn't been the fastest every week, but he has been the most consistent. And that's what's gonna work for you at the end of the season. You still want to get a couple wins under your belt, but if you finish in the top 5 in every race in a season, you're gonna be pretty well off in that championship contention.
So that's a look at the driver standings, and don't forget, no Pro-Am for 2023 Season 2. It's just one combined Drivers' Championship. It means some of our drivers that have come up from the GT3 Fix Series have been thrust straight into the main competition. However, in the Team Championship, once you combine it all out, it's 8 points that split CRT Purple in their wave of purple machines against Precision Racing Esports. Don't forget SimCity Racing, just a 2-man outfit compared to some of the 3-man teams they're competing against. They sit up in 3rd, but really, it's going to be an interesting fight here between CRT Purple and Precision Racing Esports, especially knowing that now Boris Ovando is starting to find his feet, and Elliott White continues to be in the top 10 even after missing one of the rounds.
It's all about the new kids on the block versus the stalwarts of the series, and of course Precision Racing Esports kind of racing in their own series. You always want to treat them as a little bit of a non-underdog there, but the Seabow Racing Team, that's what CRT stands for, new to the PRL this season, have invaded with all sorts of drivers from Panama and the Dominican Republic, really adding an international flair to this series, and they've shown up very, very well.
So that's a look at your championships and how they all run themselves on through. Again, it's an open qualifying sessions for the drivers to work on through, and that means that not really worried about draft at a track like this. You're more worried about just getting some clean air and getting an opportunity to get the most of the track. Arnaud Genet jumps up to 2nd with 4.5 odd minutes left to go, but it is Martin Crisp in the SimCity Racing 957 that currently has provisional pole position. Juan Malagon sits third with Gonzalo Cortez and Nani Tavares through the top 5. Abner Acosta now in 6th. The margin between Martin Crisp and Arnaud Genet is equal to the margin between Arnaud Genet and the rest of the top 10.
SimCity Racing, sometimes they just have those races where they have everything figured out. Martin's teammate Sean Dickinson didn't quite seem to figure things out in the first run there, but he's back in the pits. He'll go out for one more time, I believe, if he can find some gap on track. Acosta goes up to P4. But the critical thing to remember here is this is a new track on iRacing. It's been released for a couple of weeks now, so it's not like it was released yesterday. People have had time to work on setups, but it's the first time we've run GT3 at this track. That's definitely adding to a lot of the difference in setups. Some people just frankly haven't nailed it on their first try.
We ride on board with Nani Tavares in the Lamborghini. There's, I believe, Philip Magnon off to the left-hand side. There's a invisible ghost, apparently, in his rearview mirror that I just caught for a moment. But you mentioned lack of chicane. This is where that chicane would be. It means a bit more of a flowing, fast, double right-hander into the final corner. This is also where, in MotoGP, the long lap penalty would be. It's the equivalent of a joker lap. You don't make people do drive-through penalties in motorcycle racing. Instead, you get them to do long lap penalties, something that I really do like. Now, Nani Tavares to the line. 1:37.8 was the previous best, finds just over 1/10 of a second, and given the margins, that should have been enough to get up potentially even to second, but the lap invalidated. Tavares has no improvement.
It's another place. It's a grade 1 track, so you've got to think about track limits. You cannot extend too far over into some of those paved runoff areas. Andrew Waring here in a little bit of a train right now. Didn't have the best start to this session. He didn't get a legitimate lap on the board until about 2 minutes ago. He spent 15 laps just getting held up by people. Finally got it up to P5 though, and as soon as he's done that, he has the Audi of Lucas Souza in front of him through these very fast right-handers. They're going to wear the tires a lot over the course of the race. I think Waring is going to get away without getting too held up here, but through the final corner, it's getting dicey.
It's a track that's hosted Formula One in the past as well, but as mentioned, as of late, it's more just been about the 2 wheels than the 4 wheels. That's going to be Andrew Waring deciding to call it quits for qualifying. Let's check in with Arnaud Genet as he works his way around the start of the lap through the opening double right-hander and now into the meat of the middle sector. Fast left-hander, just flick the car over to the left and then get ready to get on to the brakes very slightly, because the more momentum you scrub off through this corner, the more momentum you lose down the short back straightaways. You then plunge down the hill into another heavy braking zone, the hairpin at the end of this back straight.
I love that Mr. Genet's name is what an Australian person says when something goes wrong. Arnaud.
I was trying to think how Genet is said by an Australian, not Arnaud.
Arnaud. It's all gone wrong.
Ryan Pucktel up to 6th position as Genet sees a BMW spearing itself off the track to let him go on through. Look at focus on his face, and this is one of those tracks where we've talked about how the tires are going to be really pushed to their limit, Joey, but at the same time, they're then reliant on the driver to really be as calm as they can be with their inputs, to not overstress the tires at any one point.
I think in a way Arnaud was stressing the tires a little bit less there by going wide through that very fast second to last corner. He clipped the gravel a little bit, so I don't know if this lap is actually going to count. He was a little bit off track. You can see he's not very happy. I think that might mean that the lap's not counting. He brings it to the line. That would be good enough for P2. He is still P2, but that lap didn't count. That didn't improve.
And now he says, see ya, I'm out of the rig and I'm done for qualifying with 22 seconds left to go. Abner Acosta has just come across the line, so he's got a great opportunity in his Lamborghini to try and put something special on the board in the final stages of qualifying. But with the session winding down, who's got the most chance to find some improvement? Crisp and Genet, provisional front row, watching on as the checkered flag flies and drivers get to finish the lap that they're on.
It's a new livery for Gonzalo Cortez here. That's interesting. We're used to seeing him in the bright red balloon car. It's going to be harder to differentiate him now, but Ryan Pucktel still in that fire orange Porsche. Very easily differentiable. He's going to bring it to the line. No improvement for Pucktel, though. Not a great lap from him. He'll still be happy with P6, though.
Audi Mercedes and an Audi comes to the line. No improvement there. Kevin Norris, also another one of the drivers that does not find any sort of improvement. Nani Tavares in the CRT Blue machine will be next up to power out of the final corner, as seems like a couple of cars practicing their pit entry. As always, something to talk about in these time box races. For a moment, I thought the 911 would improve, but there's no such improvement. It's 8th for the 911.
Still quite a few drivers out on track. We saw that that Genet was able to find time, even though it didn't count. Michael Terrafino getting a little bit of pit lane practice there. Nikos Sanidakis, his home track is actually Watkins Glen from a little bit earlier, but no such luck for him there in Harath. No home race for him. Going to stay 33rd. So no improvement for the BMW. Still a couple Audis, Pabiano, and one more Lamborghini behind as well.
Don't seem like we're seeing any improvements. There is another one of our Fords. Ethan Bass decides it's a pit lane practice sort of time. So does Philippe Magnon. So I think that is basically qualifying done and dusted. And so it's going to be Martin Crisp in that SimCity racing car that gets ready to lead us to the green. It's his first pole position of the season. It's a 4th different pole position winner in as many races.
Checking the data here. Is this Martin Crisp's first pole ever? Yes, it is.
Wow.
We got another new pole sitter. He does have one win, which he didn't actually win on track. That was from last season when Sean Campbell won in the Ford at Suzuka, but was disqualified for switching cars. So Martin Crisp technically won that race, but this is a legit pole, and he's going for his first on-track win.
You know what's funny? Sean Campbell has left this series in the GT3. He's gone over to the Lionheart Sports Car Series, where they're all hoping that he gets disqualified from the races so that they can have a chance of winning as well. It just seems like that guy doesn't know how not to win. But we had a very fun and fascinating race at Watkins Glen. Plenty of thrills and spills. It's the first time that we'll see GT3 cars out on track in the Spanish coast as the drivers get set to rumble for 40 minutes here in Jerez. Let's see how they're going to start with Martin Crisp in that SimCity racing car, making it 2 first-time pole position winners in the PRL here tonight. Plenty of excitement, I'm sure, in the camp for SimCity Racing. It's going to be Martin Crisp alongside Arnaud Genet on the front row, with Juan Malagon and Abner Acosta with the Porsche and Lamborghini duo on row number 2. It's Andrew Waring in Evolve Sim Sports number 71, Joey. Just make sure you get the team name right. Ryan Pucktel alongside on the outside of the row number 3. Behind them, it's Gonzalo Cortez in those new colors that starts alongside with Nani Tavares, Devin Horvath, and Francis Romero complete your top 10. Beckham Jassir exploded onto the PRL scene in the first couple of weeks. He's got to find his footing and some form now from 11th. He's got Andrew Hardman for company on row number 6. From 13th, it's going to be Sean Dickinson. Still looking to try and climb his way forward. David Mendoza will be on his outside. Fernando Yaquez and J.R. Williams share row 8 with Miguel Angel Fonseca, one of our previous AM champions, lining up inside of Ethan Bass in that Orbit Motorsports Ford. It's Blake Ziti and Joey Haynes 19th and 20th with Caleb Lehman and Nick McLaughlin. The first of the cars with Joey Tebbin's face on the side of it, and now suddenly the grid takes a decidedly different turn. Michael Terrafino in the Team Beef number 94 inside of Andres Espinosa for SRT Esports Black, with Michael Pabiano, Josh Spears, Kwok Nin, Dave Menino, Tommy Brisson, and Frankie Arvello completing your top 30. Behind them, Ryan O'Connor in the Mercedes as Luis Grullon alongside Nico Sanidakis and Lucas Souza on row 17 with Tony Costello and 35th. He's got Brian Curran, in the 420 in 36th alongside. Oliver Rodriguez, Kevin Norris, Philippe Magnon, Ryan Skolny, Audi Mercedes, and Marc-Andre Deschardin. That's the 42 cars that line up on the front 21 rows, and then just one more car with a time on the board. That's Casey Waters with Jared Farrell and Andrew Sharp through the 25 cars. They'll get ready to do battle. Now, I got concerned for a moment because the camera angle that I saw did not have a pace car, but we have a full pace lap, Joey, which means A, we could have read through that grid a little bit slower. B, there's plenty of time for drivers to get some heat and temperature into their tires.
Yeah, save your breath for a little bit, Arjuna. We need that back for the start-finish straight, but we're in the frontera of Spain. It's normally pretty hot around here. Usually in February it gets a little bit cold in the mountains, around what F1 used to test here, but We take a look at the track temps. I think it's a pretty warm day here at Harath. It should be pretty toasty here in Spain. The sun is out.
Oh, wow.
115 degrees Fahrenheit. I think you could actually toast at that temperature.
That is only going to come down, given that it is 3:30 p.m. here, virtual standard time. So we'll keep an eye on that. You know, something else we should always keep an eye on is our drivers. We got Caleb Lehman with the googly eyes, wants to make sure that he's watching you. Ryan O'Connor, also in virtual reality, joins him today, and he's got plenty of light peeking in from the background. Quoknin, another one of the VR contingent, and Nick McLaughlin, Arnaud Genet, and Caven Norris, the 6 drivers sharing their webcams with us today.
I'm concerned about Ryan O'Connor. I think that's exposed fiberglass behind him, so hopefully he's not breathing in any particles, but he does bear a striking resemblance to LCD Sound System's James Murphy. So you win some, you lose some, it all evens out.
I like that we've got equal number of VR and non-VR here as well. 3 in the headset, 3 not in the headset. I'm trying to decide who looks the most focused here. I'm going to say Arnaud.
I think I might agree. He's very focused on the track. Caven Norris is coughing his guts out, so he's probably focused on that. And one driver you don't notice on there is Ted Lowendick. Not here this week. Was planning to be here, but unfortunately, things at the office have heated up, so he's got to go help out his team at actual work, and he's dissing us at the PRL.
Well, you mean fortunately, so we don't have to stare at your face on the side of one of those cars?
Yes, actually, and he didn't cook me a paella for this week.
Wow.
I asked him to.
I forgot about that. Was a promise, wasn't it, as well?
I don't think it was a promise.
No, it was.
I was encouraging him, but I wanted some Spanish food, maybe some pan con tomate, something like that, but just got to imagine the Spanish food myself.
We've got, what, 3 corners left to go here, Joey?
Something like that.
Shall we quickly disturb Nick McLaughlin and ask for his expectations?
Nick McLaughlin, expectations, make it 5 words or less.
Oh, dear, help me.
Thank you, Nick McLaughlin.
I mean, what more did you need to hear, Joey?
Exactly, that's it.
Straight out of the horse's mouth. And it's always great that we're going to get to be able to talk to Nick, although he's going to be hoping we don't disturb him when he's in the thick of the fighting. I regret to inform him that is not the reason why we signed up for him to be in the Joey Tebben fan club. Okay, I asked for your prediction once. I'm going to give you another opportunity to not be boring and sit on the fence, Joey.
Crisp gets it done. He gets his first real win.
There we go, Martin's Crisp. Well, it's his first pole position, and unlike Errol Orexo, will he be able to convert as we get ready to rumble for the first time here at Harath? It's a great start from the SimCity racing car as he sees the green flag and leaves those behind him to battle side by side on the climb up in towards turn number 1. Andrew Waring past Arnaud Genet immediately. Great start from him, already gaining about 3 or so positions. Cortez, Acosta, and Horvath, that's the rest of your top 6, side by side on the outskirts of the top 10, but now filtering into the middle sector, getting ready to rumble onto that back straightaway. It's all going to be about getting into the right place to make sure you're not slipping and sliding like Ethan Bass in that Ford was.
Ethan Bass was looking a little bit like a fish there, just slipping and sliding. He's eventually recovered, but it's going to be the inside of this long left-hander here. You do want to be on the inside, but it is a little bit like turn 9 at Watkins Glen. It plateaus out. There's a little bit of gravel kicked up further back. Seems mostly clean through lap 1. There's a huge dive by Beckham Jasir.
And I think Sean Dickinson got a similar sort of dive from Fernando Yaquez based on the timing, but Jasir was able to slow it down in time and now does get 6th away from Devin Horvath in the Audi, who's now under fire from behind in the bright orange Porsche of Ryan Pucktel. I tell you what, all things considered, pretty clean start with all 43 cars that took to the green flag initially getting through safely. Miguel Angel Fonseca decided he wanted no part of that, decided to start from pit lane.
I think he actually showed up to the session late. If my, he didn't qualify because he wasn't in the session, so he's, I think, getting his first laps of practice right now in the race.
No, he definitely qualified because I remember reading his name halfway through that grid.
I don't remember you reading his name, though. I remember there being 43 cars in the grid, and Miguel is in 44th.
He was like 17th. I promise you he was there.
I'm going to have to check the data here. I'm going to rewind the tape here, but I can't actually because there's still craziness going on in the back.
No.
Crisp is running away, but we've gone train mode now.
We have gone, and I think this is going to be the story of the first part of the race, and so it's not a problem. We'll settle into it and just relax, because we saw how important the fuel games were for Gary Brown to leapfrog Errol Orexo in the GT3 Fix Series. What's the story going to be in this GT3 Sprint Series? Martin Crisp already trying to sprint away at the front. Andrew Waring now up 2 positions based on what my timing says. Beckham Jasir has gained 4 positions on that start, and it goes to show that sometimes being aggressive does pay dividends.
It always does, and I did just check the tapes. You were right, Arjuna. Miguel did qualify.
I read his name. I knew it.
Got the number exactly right. He was 17th, but who's the mystery 44th driver then? That's my question.
I don't know. Did I read Andrew Sharp's name out?
Yeah, he was 43rd. I think is it Frankie Arvello? Is he the mystery driver?
No,
this is so
because
bizarre.
I remember reading his name as well.
This is so bizarre.
Wow, my mind is blown, and this doesn't happen very frequently. Okay, focus in on what's happening right now on track. It's 1 second the margin at the front from Martin Crisp to Andrew Waring, who is trying as hard as he can. It's 4 Audis at the front, so the only difference will be the slight differences in setup that they've all found, and Martin Crisp is likely running the same setup as Sean Dickinson, who's back in 12th position. Crisp at the line leads by 1.4 seconds. He is flying.
This is kind of like some of those Sean Dickinson races we saw last season. At Silverstone, at Manicourt, he was just faster than the rest of the field, frankly. Nobody could touch him in qualifying. Nobody could touch him in the race. It seems like these SimCity racing drivers each get to have one of these races per season. Sean's definitely hoping that he can use some of that to his advantage in traffic, because right now he's stuck back in 12th, and Andres Espinoza, who we watch now, stuck back in 21st after being competitive for a podium last week at the Red Bull Ring, and that's Ethan Bass turning into a fish.
That could have been a whole lot worse, but they all stumbled over each other safely in the end. Now what happened to Nick McLaughlin, and the curse of Joey Tebbin's face continues. What were the 5 words that he said again?
I think he said, "Oh dear, please help me," and that's probably what he was saying in the middle of the corner there, because cold tires in the Audi just turns into the corner and loops around. That's no commentator's curse. That's just a Nick McLaughlin mistake, unfortunately.
I don't know. I feel a little bit guilty about now disturbing her about 2 corners before the start.
It might have happened anyway. And also, I did just realize there were 45 cars on the grid you read, not 43. So we actually lost.
So who's the one who's missing?
I know, it's another mystery. I have no idea.
Juan Malagon. Boom, there you go.
Didn't he qualified like 3rd?
So that's why Andrew Waring was provisionally scored as +3, not +2. Okay. So we've got to we've finally Sherlock Holmes our way to the answer. It took us a while. Tommy Brasone is trying to stymie the bleeding. I think he's been escorted off the track, and now a flash of the lights from Oliver Rodriguez, who might have a go into the final corner at trying a switchback, but you can just see how it's all concertining up. Brian Curran and Caven Norris may be coming together as well.
Curran definitely got some front-end damage there. There's a little bit of contact between him and Tony Costello, I believe. Caven Norris is incensed. He definitely got a piece of that, as did Ryan Skalny behind him. It's a tight hairpin to the final corner. It's a very awkward corner. It's going to get even more awkward once pit lane entry comes around, because you've got to break even earlier, but trains like this, when you go into a hairpin, you've got to be on your toes if you're about 4th or 5th in the train, because it's so easy to just get, like you said, concertinaed or accordioned.
Now, when Caven moves his head again, are those protein powder bottles stacked up behind him?
That seems like a Caven Norris kind of thing to have.
I mean, the shape, it was, yeah, protein powder. He's got a lot of protein powder. Apparently, that's good for sim racers.
Gotta get swole. Whoa! As Curran, not swole whatsoever, and there goes Caven Norris around the outside.
It's not completely done, though. BMW still has a bit of overlap, but not for long, and now, inside for the Porsche behind, Ryan Skalny fires it through as well.
Skalny's a teammate, I believe, and Dickinson and Mendonça have come together.
My goodness me! And Sean Dickinson seems to be unable to buy any luck to start off this 2023 Season 2.
There's Blake Ziti in the middle of the track as well. I think he may have had a part in there as well. Everybody just trying to recover and get back to the pits. Mendonça, you see him throwing himself into the gravel there to stay out of everybody's way. Blake Ziti does as well. Well done by both of them to eventually get out of the way, but I think it may have been a 3-way accident there.
Well, I think we're going to see something that no one expected, which is a Sean Dickinson mistake, and then the other cars, let's be fair, nowhere to go.
Nowhere Mendonça could go there with Sean Dickinson losing it like that. Those tires are definitely rolling, and poor old Blake Ziti. That one driver in front of him did manage to avoid. I think that was Ryan O'Connor or Josh Spears, potentially. They avoided it, but poor old Blake, wrong place, wrong time.
Truly baked CT now, unfortunately. It's going to be left in the oven, I guess, for the rest of the race.
Burnt.
Matt Schaefer was trying to figure out the mystery driver with us as well. Don't forget, RaceSpot.tv/timing2. You can follow along with live timing and scoring. It would be especially useful if your teammate is named Martin Crisp, because he leads by 1.3 odd seconds, and if it continues as this, he'll get that thing that every driver wants, which is a commentator's not to talk about you when you're leading a race.
Waring's definitely keeping him company, though, so this is far from over. This has not just been Crisp running away by tenths and tenths every lap. And Andrew Waring is a very strong driver in terms of tire saving. Martin Crisp, I think, also is, but again, it's a new track, lots of high-speed corners, very high temperatures. Somebody like Andrew Waring, who likes to save the tires, especially on the open wheel side, he could come back into contention in a couple of minutes' time.
What team is Andrew Waring on, Joey?
Evolve.
There we go. There we go.
Well, yeah, it is Evolve Simsport, because that's what he's been. Nothing's gone wrong. It's all been right. He's been doing a good job. He got a couple of free positions when Juan Malagon didn't make the grid. It's been all Evolve all the time. And
maybe he actually got promoted. He would have been on the side of the grid with Juan Malagon, wouldn't he?
Yeah, because Waring qualified 5th, and he started 3rd, and that's why he was able to jump up to 2nd. So I was questioning that at the start of the race. I was just saying, oh, Andrew Waring had a great start to the race, but I'm sorry, Juan Malagon. I just forgot about you.
Can we figure out what happened to Juan Malagon, though? That's now the key thing.
Did his internet go out or something? Did we see a throughput or anything in the session?
These are very important questions that I can answer. That yes, we did indeed see a throughput. Caven Norris is going to wish that he had throughputed, as is Tommy Brissone.
Oh, I think Tommy gave up midway through there about getting back onto the track. He did make it back, and then he was like, nah, I don't think so. I think I'm coming back to the pits.
See if we can grab a look at what happened between the two of them, because surely we don't need to try and sleuth our way through another detective mystery here. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Don't, no. Oh.
Yeah. Poor old Tommy Brisson.
Yeah.
So did Caven get any help, or did he just end up out there? It doesn't look like it. Through the long left-hander there, ends up in the gravel, gets clipped on the grass, but makes no attempt to slow the vehicle down whatsoever, and just yeets himself right into the path of Tommy Brisson. Tommy is not going to be very happy about that.
I will tell you what, Tommy does his best to try and slow down, but the problem is he's got a Porsche right up his rear bumper, and so the car, just as the car goes out of shot, perfect camera timing there. Tommy has no choice but to get back onto the throttle, because otherwise he's going to be hit from behind, and so I think Tommy was cognizant of the danger, but ran out of options at the end of the day. We are, what, 10 minutes into this one or something?
Something like that. It's flying by.
Wasn't this meant to be a 40-minute race?
40...
There were 40-minute races. This was definitely a 45-minute race, for the record.
Why everything is confusing today? We were confused last week enough with Barber and Harath, and now it's all gone even more confusing.
It is meant to be 40 minutes, right? Because I hope the drivers have got the memo that it's 45, because they're going to need to put in 5 extra minutes of fuel.
I'm checking. Races are scheduled to be 40 to 45 minutes on schedule, which I did not know was a thing. I thought it was always 40 minutes, but 40 to 45 minutes now.
So if the voice of the PRL didn't know, I feel a lot better that I didn't know.
I have a feeling this is a regulation change. I'm going to have to check the logs for the past seasons, because I'm gaslighting myself right now. I don't know what's going on.
So the schedule does say that this is 45 minutes. The other 45-minute race is... We'll get back to that, because I tell you what, Artie Mercedes and Jared Farrowell have managed to trip over each other, I think. This is 45 minutes, and our trip to Barber is also going to be 45 minutes, if you're curious, Joey.
So I wonder if that's just a way to spice up the action a little bit, because last season, I am right, I'm not gaslighting myself, I'm not wrong. Races were previously 40 minutes. We'll get back to that in a second here, as we do have to see what happened here to a few drivers further back. BMW goes around, and Artie Mercedes in the Audi did avoid it.
Good
well
job.
done.
Yeah. Although still, I'm taking points off just because Artie Mercedes is not in a Mercedes.
He was in a Mercedes in the GT4 series when he started, so he gets some credit for that, but
Close.
good brakes. Good brakes on that Audi.
Too close for comfort, I tell you as well. Beckham Jasir is now up into 6th position after a result of how the start played out. It's been an interesting run for him in PRL competition after what was a pretty impressive first couple of weeks.
And he was just defeated for the first time in the GT4 Sprint Series. He won the first 3 races of the season. Justin Ream finally got back into victory lane in GT4 on Monday night yesterday. Beckham still finished 3rd though, so still clearly got speed, and he's back to where he should be here in P6.
So we need to put more bop on him, is what you're saying.
Maybe.
Yeah, unfortunately, some of these guys are just too good for their own good.
Yeah.
Martin
Can't
Crispin,
bend it like Beckham.
sure, or they can bend it like Beckham, is what you mean. But they all.
They should. They should is what they should do.
1.1 or so seconds at the line between Crisp and Waring, so it is starting to close on in. Still 4 Audis at the front, then a Lamborghini, then a Porsche, and then another Audi. I think we know who the dominant mark in this particular track and BOP combo is. The reality is the next time that we come back to Harath, it will be totally different.
And I just realized that the reason why these are 45-minute races is because in the GT3 Sprint Series, we lost Donington this week because that was supposed to be the race this week in this series and in the fixed series. Didn't have enough pit stalls. So they switched this series to follow the IMSA schedule, which are 45-minute races instead of 40-minute races. So they just made this race and Barber coming up in round 7 45 minutes. So they lined up with the IMSA races in the official series, so the drivers who get practice in those series during the week can actually use that practice for these races as well.
I want to be clear here. I get the logic. You know, you want the drivers to be able to practice during the week, during doing races. But my head still hurts even after you explained it, Joey.
It does. I'm still confused about the Nürburgring coming up in a couple weeks because that's still going to be 40 minutes. That's still going to follow the 40-minute GT schedules, but that's going to be a very short race. That's going to be like 3 or 4 laps.
So we've got GT3 cars. Which layout are we using? We're using the full...
The combined.
Well, no, we're specifically using the 24-hour layout rather than the VLN layout, which is important because lap times do tend to differ between the two. Lap times at the combined layout, the 24-hour combined layout, is Devin Horvath, Ryan Pucktel side by side up the hill. And oh, look at that from Nane Tavares. Beautifully done to spot the opportunity that Pucktel left open. And for Tavares to grab 8th and now put the pressure on for 7th. But I think there are going to be lap times of about 8 minutes and 20 seconds or so. With the fuel restrictions that we have, I would suspect that we're going to do maybe 2 laps in the GT3 Fix Series, maybe 3 laps in GT3 Sprint. So if you extrapolate from that, I get the sneaking suspicion that we are going to be looking at 5-lap races.
That's gonna be absolutely crazy, and I don't know what to expect because I don't know how many of these drivers have Nürburgring experience. I don't know if anybody's won there before, but it's gonna be crazy. And it's gonna be a test on your PC, Arjuna.
Oh, don't worry. It's going to be a test of you as well, Joey, because if you didn't know, I love the Nordschleife. I know most of the corner names around there.
Yeah. You might have to call Peter Mackay for that week because I'm not going to be able to hold up all the corner names.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I thought. We'll get the experienced people on the line. Let's quickly jump our way through some onboard cameras that we've got because it's always great that we get to ride with them. Kwoknin's given us the vertical camera angle today, and he's giving us a bit of that shake in the wheel as well as he works his way through these corners. Currently sits down in 19th spot, but locked in a fight for 17th.
All sorts of battles here. It is Harath. It is a tough place to pass. It's almost like the Hungaroring in that way, but you can definitely make moves, especially later on in the run as the tires will start to fall off a little bit. Kwoknin is, like Arjuna said, locked in a battle here. That's 18th place ahead of him. Andres Espinoza, Michael Terrafino ahead of him as well, who had a great race at the Red Bull Ring last week. Kwoknin definitely sees a couple more positions ahead of him, just needs a couple more mistakes, I think. from Espinosa and Terrafino.
We'll jump on over to Caleb Lehman with his googly eyes. He's
got the shuttle back there instead of the Saturn V now.
Hey, I've got that over my shoulder as well, so I approve, but he's got Joey Haynes and Ethan Bass trying to hunt him down. This for 14th position in the Porsche 911 GT3. Check in with Ryan O'Connor if we can as well. Just trying to find him over there because we're still trying to figure out what's in his background.
It's an unfinished basement, which is interesting, and I respect it. On Wednesday nights, we always see those guys with the giant finished basements with the pool tables and everything, but that's a real basement there with Ryan O'Connor. And he does look like LCD Sound Systems James Murphy. I'm not going to be able to forget about that.
Should we go and disturb Nick McLaughlin for a few moments again?
Sure.
I'll let you do it.
All right, Nick McLaughlin, you had that little incident earlier, 36th place right now. Talk to us and only speak in Spanish.
Sí, muy not bien.
That's Doodle Bob from SpongeBob. I don't think that was Spanish, but we'll return to English for the moment. What happened there about 10 minutes ago? Talk us through it, and how are your plans for recovery for the next 26 minutes?
Well, in very simple physics terms, the back end thought it was quicker than the front end, and that doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and you're riding solo tonight. Ted is too busy trying to make sure the next pandemic doesn't get out of the lab or something. He's working with his coworkers. So how lonely is it right now?
It's pretty quiet. I'm a little happy you dragged me up here. We're just chasing Artie around trying to get some spots back, but I'm making lots of little mistakes, and yeah, the incident limit is fast approaching.
What are you at right now?
12?
Oh no, 12. You get a penalty for 13, and you get disqualified for 17.
Yes.
And we're not even halfway through the race.
Yeah, it's, I've been in better predicaments.
And before we let you go, I will just ask one more question, because this is an interesting race here. Because this was a replacement race, it's a different length. It's 45 minutes instead of 40 minutes. Explain the choice to do that, and why we're following a different series here.
So normally we follow the Donington series, which is where VRS is this week. However, with our number of cars, and we could have pulled it off, Donington only has 51 pit stalls, and we have 60 registered drivers. So we didn't want to take the risk of it being first come, first serve on seats.
I got to cut you off here, Nick. We got action on the track, but we'll talk to you soon.
Godspeed, guys.
Yeah, there's been plenty of action, Joey. We had Abner Acosta getting in front of a couple of drivers in the battle for the top 5, but now look at this battle for the lead, because Andrew Waring within half a car length of Martin Crisp as they work into the middle sector.
This is exactly what I was thinking about. Andrew Waring is always a long-run driver. He's very good at saving tires. He's very good at these hot, slick tracks. Not that Martin Crisp isn't, but you can definitely tell that Crisp is struggling a little bit more. He had a lot more raw pace, but he's also used the tires up a lot more. And Andrew Waring is all over the back of him now. We're still not even to halfway in this race, so will Waring actually go for the move is a good question, but Tavares and Cortez have come together up at the top of the hill.
Yeah, I think it started potentially with Devin Horvath as well. We'll grab a look at that in a few moments' time, but as we get closer and closer into the pit stop window opening up, starting to intensify up and down through the track, while they hunt for the lead, Dave Menino, a most recent retiree before that incident on the run into the back straightaway, just a little bit too much of the inside curb, and wallop into the wall. Instantly, it was day done. Now let's go check out what happened, though, with Gonzalo Cortez.
Gonzalo Cortez in that black and blue Audi, not the red balloon car we're normally used to seeing him in, just loses it extremely early. Does do a good job of locking it down, but then gets back on the throttle. Just incredibly, I think he was trying to get out of the way, but failed. And Martin Crisp, I think, was trying to come into the pits, and he's lost it at the hairpin. It's all kicking off.
We did say it was an interesting pit entry, and after dominating the first 20-plus minutes of the race, Martin Crisp makes one crucial mistake. We get a look from up above at all of that commotion on that run into the back straightaway. But now, Andrew Waring with a prime opportunity into the pit stop window to try and break away.
And this would be a very, very early time to pit, so I'm almost wondering, was Martin Crisp intending to pit there? Did he lose it out of that second-to-last corner and end up recovering in the mid part of pit lane. We'll take a look here.
No, this is definitely a pit entry.
That was definitely a deliberate choice, but it was a very late choice and far too late of a choice because he took too much speed, clipped the grass, and eventually just ends up having to turn it around and get back on pit lane. I don't know if that's going to count as a safe pit entry. He might get an additional penalty for that.
It didn't, because he's still in pit lane. And so Martin Crisp, a first ever pole position in the PRL, and for the second time tonight after a driver was able to achieve that mark, they're not going to convert it into a win.
I just don't understand that choice because it's so early in the race. If he pitted right now, he would have been in the thick of traffic.
I'll bring up something that was at the top of my mind. If we had added, if we had 5 more minutes of race distance, did we add a corresponding amount of fuel? Because let's not forget these are fuel limited cars, and so potentially was the mindset there from Martin Crisp.
Genet just did the same thing, but he saved it. Oh my goodness.
I'm telling you, I feel like the pit stop window has been shifted forward 5 or so minutes, and maybe Martin Crisp was coming in knowing his tires were getting really, really scrubbed, and it was a chance for him to get a bit of a respite.
I think you might be right, and I'm wondering if the pit stops are a little bit longer with those 5 additional minutes of fuel you need. Could drivers be thinking about taking tires here? But Arnaud Genet, oh my goodness, very well saved there. But you've got to be very, very careful on this pit entry. I mentioned it for a reason, and so hopefully some people have been seeing what's been going on with Arnaud and Martin.
So to your point on the pit stop times, we've seen 15.7 seconds, Arnaud Genet 16.7 seconds. We're only a second or two longer than what we traditionally see, which is interesting because it's a couple of liters per second of fuel that they'll be able to put in. The fuel flow rate is going to actually depend from car to car, but that doesn't seem that much longer to me.
It doesn't, and I'm doing the math backwards now. We're about 24 minutes into the race, so this is essentially as if in a 40-minute race we were at about 16 minutes to go, which is when pit stops would tend to kick off. So it does make more sense now that I think about it, but still, it is an interesting strategy, and you don't want to come in this early, especially when there's that amount of traffic further back. You look to see where Arnaud Genet has come out. He's actually come out in a little bit of clean track, but in about a second's time, he's got a hornet's nest of cars in front of him.
Ultimately, he's now just hoping that there's going to be an opportunity to try and get some clean air once their others have all cycled their way down on towards the pit lane. Genet is... Yeah, Martin Crisp has ended up spending 57 seconds stationary in pit lane, so his chance is officially done and dusted. Caleb Lehman and Ethan Bass, they roll now onto pit lane as well with Ryan O'Connor and company. One by one, drivers starting to peel their way off for their required service.
I think Joey Haynes may have intended to come in as well and missed it. He's lost a ton of time, and he was right around where Bass and Caleb Lehman were, so I think that may have been what happened there. He's got to go one more lap around. It's so tricky here. We're in 20 minutes to go, so fuel is starting to run out. We'll ride on board with Mr. Joey Haynes here. I believe this is him. No, not intended to come in. Did he lose it out of the hairpin? Or did he just, no, nothing happened with Joey Haynes. He lost a ton of time, but it's a mystery as to where it happened.
Yeah, it didn't look too abnormal. Now, Genet is going to cycle in front of everyone who just came down pit lane, but that's because no one of note has yet come down on in. Andrew Waring's in a perfect spot right now with that mistake from Genet with 2.5 seconds back to the championship leader, Abner Acosta, to get his season on track.
Well, you know what would be the most deeply ironic thing is if Arnaud Genet, or if Andrew Waring rather, does exactly the same thing that his two rivals did on pit entry.
Oh, don't you do that to him.
Hopefully somebody from his team has told him, hey, you can be careful coming into pit lane here. You don't got to push it too hard. Your other two rivals have done that and taken themselves out of contention. Oh boy, can he get it slowed down?
Beckham Jasir staying out one lap longer though, so even though Waring and Acosta nice and tidy on pit lane entry, Jasir keeping himself in touch by potentially going that 1 lap longer. Ryan Pucktel almost found himself off into the grass as well. And I just want to make sure I'm clear with what I was saying. Andrew Waring has shown speed. He's a previous race winner this season. However, the DNF in round number 1 has put himself on the back foot in the championship hunt immediately at the start of this season. And Andrew Waring sits now 10 seconds stationary, getting ready to roll and hopefully back to the lead of the race.
You do have to be careful as well on the turn itself, not to cut it too hard. You can get a slowdown for that, but no such slowdown for Waring, no such slowdown for Acosta, and luckily for both of them, the entire field behind them has come in, so they're not going to get held up. Here comes Andrew Waring into turn 1, easily ahead of Genet, who picks up third.
Kevin Norris tells us, by the way, it's not protein powder, it's G Fuel. I don't know what G Fuel is. I'll be honest.
I think G Fuel is like an energy drink, so it's like energy drink powder.
Okay.
I don't know what's in it.
Wait, you said powder?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's like,
okay.
You know how you get the Gatorade powder that you mix yourself?
Yeah, I remember.
It's just that for gamers.
Interesting. Now,
You got to get your gamer fuel.
I'm pretty sure Beckham Jasir has gone one lap too long. Because I don't feel like he's fully up to speed right now. Yes, he's going up through the gears as per normal. But in terms of pace, I feel like he's lost a bit this lap, and so... Whoa! Tires are definitely not where he would want them to be. Maybe that's the reason why.
Almost clips the grass again, but that was a textbook pit entry there. So Beckham has clearly been practicing this, and I don't think he actually lost any time there. If anything, through that final sector, he was actually pulling time to Andrew Waring. Has it been 2 seconds of time he's pulled, though? I'm not so sure. I think he's definitely thinking about second place right now. He's definitely thinking about jumping Genet. And look at Arnaud Genet. He's closed up to Waring as well. He's half a second off of him.
I think tires maybe are a huge factor. We looked at tire temperatures early. Track temperatures early, I should say. They were high as well. Beckham Jasir, 13.8 seconds. He's a good 2 seconds shorter than the rest of the field in pit lane. And as he starts the climb up in towards turn number 1, behind Waring and Genet, hot on his heels. But it is going to be Beckham Jasir that comes out directly behind them when all things are played out. But realistically, it's not a 3-way fight for first. It's a 4-way fight. Beckham Jasir immediately down the inside of Arnaud Genet.
He was so close to getting by both of them, but that's a critical move there. He was able to get the switchback coming out of the pits to get by Genet. Genet wasn't able to fight that too hard, so they're not going to lose touch with Waring. But Arnaud has clearly been very kind to those tires, somehow even kinder than Waring. Beckham Jasir, how good has he been on tire saving? That's not really something we know about him. He dominantly won at Sebring, definitely saved some good tire there. GT4 machinery is very reliant on the tires as well. How can he pass Andrew Waring in his own game?
You bring up GT4 and you're right, people may not think that it demands a lot in terms of tire conservation, but because you have so much less aerodynamic grip, you're a lot more reliant on the mechanical grip that you have, and so being able to nurse the tire is such a valuable skill. Ryan O'Connor, unfortunately, has just had a bit of a spill, and so as we pick up what happened to the Mercedes, it's on the inside in through turn 3. It's a bit of an odd one.
Kind of a strange place to lose it, but rear engine, or front engine car actually, but still looping it around at the rear, and
gravel.
he was in the gravel, yeah, way too far to the left there, and looped it around. A little kiss of the Armco, but look at Arnaud Genet back at Beckham Jasir, the final corner. These two, I think they both know they're faster than Andrew Waring, and they can afford to tussle a little bit, but not too much.
But cue that Jaws music. The tire whisperer Abner Acosta is coming, and if anyone is potentially being mindful of the tires in the early stages, you'd have to say it's the Precision Racing Esports car that might be in the best position possible. Do note as well that when it comes to the team championship, it's a bit of a mixed game right now here, with SimCity Racing likely to drop completely out of contention because Sean Dickinson is going to be the final classified finisher in 44th, and of course Martin Crisp is 27th at the time being. Precision Racing Esports being led by Abner Acosta, but Boris Ovando as well as Elliott White not there to support the number 5.
Yeah, what are they doing? If they not downloaded Harath, that would be unfortunate. But Abner's going to get some points. It's not going to be a good day for CRT either, because Juan Malagon got his internet kicked out on the second row. Francis Castillo is the only driver left in the top 10 representing that team in P7 right now. Actually, Fernando Jaquez is here as well in P10. So that's going to be some good points for CRT. Evolve could be on the scene with Waring in P1 and Hardman in P8, so that could be good for them. But the Team's Championship has suddenly gotten much spicier.
I hope we're using this layout of Harath for the GT3 fixed race later this season. There's a half look by Genet. That wasn't just half look, and Andrew Waring! Was there contact, or was it just the pressure? The Evolve SimSport car with a mistake through the final corner. Genet picks up the pieces.
I don't think there was contact. I think that was just a little bit of pressure. We'll have to take a look at a replay to see if they did get close, but I don't think Arnaud was anywhere near the rear bumper of Andrew Waring's Audi. Through the final corner here, Genet peeks to the inside. No, nothing close to contact. Waring just outbraked himself to try and outbrake Genet, and it was far too much, especially on those worn tires. And Waring goes around from the lead.
Oh, heartbreaking mistake, and now going to feel the pain for a lap or two longer as the tires, which have now been heated up, have to shed that excess tire temperature. Beckham Jasir now in contention to get back into the PRL victory lane here in the GT3 Sprint Series, and Abner Acosta has a podium spot through all of it.
I could not tell you who's going to win this race. It's impossible to predict right now, and if Arnaud Genet is able to hang on, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but his last win was all the way back in 2022 Season 2. It's been over a year since Arnaud Genet last won a race in the PRL. If he can hold off Beckham Jasir, that would be a great return to form for Arnaud.
I feel like Arnaud's been in and out of the series in some ways as well. Has not been fully focused on it. But it's been good to see him a bit more full-time this season and getting to grips with that Audi, looking over the left shoulder of Beckham Jasir into that final corner. We've also got potential fights for 5th position with Ryan Pucktel and J.R. Williams close to one another, and also closing on Andrew Waring, who might be feeling even more pressure come the end of the race.
Especially when you wear the tires like that, at a place like this where it's all high-speed corners basically and a couple of hairpins, there's basically nowhere to cool the tires down. You're going to be struggling with that all race long. You're going to be drifting around all race long. Just got to make sure to back up the pace a little bit and make sure you don't spin again, because it's easy to get stuck in an endless cycle, and it's easy to hit those incident points. Like Nick McLaughlin said, you don't want to get a penalty in addition. Huge dive.
Beckham Jasir to the inside, slows it down in time. Genet gives him room, but tries to sweep back underneath as they ramp themselves back onto the back straightaway, down the hill into the hairpin. Jasir has the momentum to hold on, and now Genet trying to set up and think about his next opportunity. They'll come across the line with less than 10 minutes to go, which I believe means that next time it marks potentially the final 6 laps of the race.
Now can Arnaud stick with Beckham Jasir? Does he have the pace to put on offense here? Or has he fallen off as well? Up through one of the most difficult corners in the track, very, very long. Arnaud has been fantastic in closing that gap back up. He might have another shot into the hairpin here. Can he force Beckham Jasir into the same mistake that he made Andrew Waring do? Through these fast corners, the Audi of Arnaud seems a little bit stronger. He's able to carry much more speed. And look at the closing right there. He's all the way to the back of Jasir again.
Remember where the weight of the Porsche is going to sit. Squat on the rear end, and while that might help in power down situations, getting the power onto the ground, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the most balanced through the corners. And so Beckham Jasir may be pedaling a car that he's having to work a bit harder, while the mid-engine Audi just seems to be balanced on its pendulum that little bit better at the time being. Now, there has been an almighty shunt further down through the field, and this may take a couple of replays for us to cycle our way on through, but it all starts with Oliver Rodriguez and Ryan O'Connor coming together, and then the Mercedes of Ryan O'Connor sets off the chain reaction.
Oh dear. Oh, and Miguel Angel Fonseca tried to get through, but O'Connor moved, which just killed Fonseca there. But there's a little bit of argy-bargy with the CRT car and O'Connor. We ride on board with Miguel Angel Fonseca here. Coming through the corner, sees a car parked in the middle of the track. Would have been fine, but O'Connor backed up straight into him. I don't think it was a good choice for Miguel Angel Fonseca to choose Crash Mike as his username, because that never bodes well.
It's always interesting seeing some of the choices for usernames from some of these drivers. Now, the benefit of iRacing in many ways is that we use our real names to compete, and so you can't hide behind a screen name there. There are definitely some interesting names. I had to rename my Discord account to just be my name, because I realized that given that I use my Discord for broadcasting purposes, it should probably be somewhat professional. speaking of professional, Arnaud Genet is being the epitome of throwing the pressure on without overly forcing the issue. In fact, if anything, he's compromised himself. Acosta a bit closer to him on the run up in towards turn number 1. And don't look, but Andrew Waring now within 2.5 seconds of your leader again.
Andrew Waring on that last lap was 7/10 faster than Beckham Jasir. He is not out of this whatsoever. Anything I was hinting at with him getting stuck in an endless cycle of tire overheating, clearly he has found another gear here, because he is the fastest driver of anybody on track right now. And Ryan Pucktel behind him, same pace basically. Both of them ran 1:32.5s in the last lap. This could be a 5-way fight for the win before we know it.
The danger of sometimes being in a pack, whether you're leading or running at the back, you run the pace of those around you rather than your own pace. Martin Crisp, by the way, important points as he recovers. Up to 21st, but plenty of distance still left to go for him. Genet not able to have a look into the hairpin this time by. Acosta that little bit closer, and like Joey mentioned, the fastest car on the track, Andrew Waring. Step by step brings the gap down bit by bit, and as we come to take what I do believe is going to be 4 laps to go this time by. Beckham Jasir is holding on, but the door is having to withhold plenty of pressure.
And you can see through basically every corner on the track, Arnaud Genet is able to enter a little bit shallower than Jasir is. Jasir has to turn in from far wider. Abner Acosta almost throws it off the road behind these two, but Genet is able to enter shallower. He's able to brake later. He's the far stronger of the two cars, but Jasir is doing an absolute masterclass of defense here. Genet cannot get by him. He's got to find another way to get by, because his move of trying to go around the outside of the hairpin has not been working whatsoever, and it's been setting him off pace for the rest of the lap.
Well, I think what he's really trying to do is cut back through the hairpin and try and get the run up into turn 1. However, whether it's him getting loose or Beckham Jasir just parking on the apex and not allowing the Audi to get the run, like you say, it's not working. And time is running out. He hooks the curb on the inside of turn 3 and almost loops himself around. Just about hangs on to it right now. But I tell you what, it's not Jasir that I'm most worried about right now. It's Genet that's starting to feel a little bit more like he's struggling.
Here comes Abner Acosta up over the top of the hill. Genet may be able to enter corners shallow, but that shallow did not help him. Down the back straight here, Acosta to the outside. Genet's not as late in the brakes, but he's going to be able to hold on the inside. Shorter radius around the corner. He's able to hang on to second. He's got to make sure Abner can't attack him, though. He's got to get back to the back of Beckham Jasir again. He's got to take advantage of those fast corners where he's so good.
And the Jaws music just continues to rumble on, because Andrew Waring now within 1.5 seconds of your race leader. The problem really is that he's running out of time to make what he needs, what he really will be thinking about as 3 separate passes. First getting past Acosta, then Genet, then Jasir. You're running out of laps with which to do that as well. And it's not necessarily a track where a 2-for-1 opportunity is going to be so easy to set up. Out of the final corner, this time with Genet, not able to try and get the up and under. They're just running single file all in the same train. 4.5 minutes left to go. Jasir still, with half a second, leads them at the line.
I think that was good for Arnaud Genet there. He didn't have to fight with Jasir. He didn't have to get himself off of his own line. He was able to get back within half a second. He has generally been 10ths faster than Jasir over the course of the lap, so he's recovered very, very well. He's back in contention now, and he's just got to wait until that final sector where he's so strong again, unless there is a bobble out of Beckham Jasir. He's not made a single mistake in the first 41 minutes of this race, but the second there's one bobble, Genet, Acosta, Waring, none of them are going to let him go.
Feel the tension right now. 2.5 laps left. It'll be 2 laps at the line. Jasir has been relatively untouched in the lead of this race. Genet's had some half-hearted looks, but the opportunities have been few and far between. And the Porsche, again, with the rear-engine nature of the car, just getting off the corners that little bit better. As Nick McLaughlin, I do think indeed, drive-through penalty comes in with 2 and a bit laps to go.
Well, look how close Genet is. He's within 0.2, now 0.3 of a second. It's expanded a little bit, but he's very good here through this long right-hander and then through the final sector. This is where he's at his best. He can cut to the inside of the track a little bit better, got a little bit scuppered there, hit the curb, But through the third to last corner here, look at how quick he has. Clips the grass a little bit. That's how far he was to the inside. Then through the second to last corner, did lose a little bit of time with that grass touch. Definitely didn't help him there. He's going to have to wait again as Waring's done it again.
Well, he's pushing. You've got to give him credit for that. But Andrew Waring drops out of the top 5, coming to 2 laps to go in his quest to try and get back onto the podium. Meanwhile, Abner Acosta right up to the bumper of Arnaud Genet. But as they climb up to turn number 1, status quo remains with these 3 machines. Even the likes of Ryan Pucktel being dragged into the mix here because Beckham Jasir's pace continues to fall off a rock.
140.6 on that last lap is still half a second, 0.6 of a second slower than Ryan Pucktel. Pucktel, I don't think, has enough time to catch up here. I think he's out of it. But if these guys come together, he might not be out of it. As let's take a look at what happened to Andrew Waring. Already got a little bit out of shape in the middle of 11 and 12 there, and then clipped the gravel too wide, almost completely lost it. It was a good save at the end of it all, but it's got a little bit too wide, pushed a little bit too hard, and that's the end of him. And I think he's just crashed again.
Yeah, well, kudos for the effort and the intensity, but again, with 1 DNF to start the season off, he knew he was always going to be on the back foot. A lap and a half then still to go. Ethan Bass in his Ford has climbed up to 7th position. We should give him some credit because, like you said, he was slip and sliding like a fish on the opening lap.
And this is exactly the kind of race that Ethan Bass needed. At Sebring and at Imola, he had horrendous races. Not entirely his fault, just got hit a bunch of times, but Ethan Bass, great driver in his own right, and very happy to see him up into P7. Here's Waring going off again. Just a little bit of snap oversteer. Didn't crash, just offed it a little bit into the gravel, but he's been hurting.
And leaders coming by out of the final corner to take the white flag. Final lap of this race. The first ever race at Harath for the GT3 Sprint Series. And Beckham Jasir, after winning the opening round and then struggling to maintain that form in the GT3 cars, has got Genet and Acosta, some of the most experienced, but now it's Abner Acosta, the championship leader, that loops it coming up through turn number 1, and he is going to drop outside of the top 5.
That's really good news for Arnaud Genet, actually, because he doesn't need to look in his mirrors. He knows it's just him versus Beckham Jasir. Ryan Pucktel might come onto the scene if they come together, but other than that, it is a 2-car battle up front. Abner Acosta into turn 1 here. Just has to slam on the brakes. There was a little bit of contact, actually, with the accordion effect there, but nothing Jasir or Genet did wrong there. Abner Acosta, just bad luck there, 3rd in line.
And now Genet tries to send it under braking, but Beckham Jasir moves back towards the outside into the braking zone. He'll hold on out of the hairpin, and surely now one more chance for Last Saloon Sens into the final corner here at Harath.
Through turn 7 and turn 8 for the final time here. This is one of the most difficult corners in the track at turn 8. It's a lot narrower than you think it is. Then into the corner that the track is named after. Beckham Jasir goes wide into turn 9.
Is this going to set up the run for the Audi? This is where we've seen that Porsche struggling with the difference in traction between the front and the rear ends. What a race we've been in for, but one more corner to set it at all. Can Beckham Jasir hold on? It's going to be Arnaud Genet that's forced to try and cut back underneath. The Porsche are able to block on the apex, and out of the final corner with a textbook display of defense, Beckham Jasir returns to the victory lane of the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. Arnaud Genet just half a second off the pace, and a 4-car fight whittled down to the last 2 men standing, and Beckham Jasir was not to be denied.
That is a textbook showing of defense for Beckham Jasir. That was one of the best races we've seen in the PRL in many, many seasons. And Arnaud Genet, all respect to him, immensely respectful driving, no contact made with the leader. Couldn't quite get the win, needed to find a way to get by and force Beckham into a mistake, but Beckham made one single mistake in the entirety of that race in 45 minutes, and it didn't cost him anything.
You know what I think Arnaud Genet did wrong, if you can say he did anything wrong? Be committed to one move and one move alone. He didn't really try anything outside of that final corner, Joey. Who knows if maybe the hairpin in the middle of the lap might have been a better opportunity.
I don't think he was ever close enough to do that, though, and he tried a couple times to, like, throw a little bit of a half-hearted dive to force Jasir into a mistake like he did with Waring, but Beckham wasn't having it. He knew that they were all fake moves. He knew that Arnaud wasn't the kind of driver to go for a dive like that, and all power to him. He didn't get tricked, and he held on.
No Trixies there. A bit of a surprise to see Abner Acosta make that mistake, but don't think you can really blame him too much given how it all just checked up so quickly. Acosta really not left much time with which he could react. Let's have a quick gander through the race results, because it is Beckham Jasir that becomes the first repeat winner here in the 2023 Season 2 of your GT3 PRL Series. Arnaud Genet pushed as hard as he could, but he does not return to the top step of the podium. It's Ryan Pucktel amongst all of that grabs the podium. Give a shout out to Beckham Jasir. He was up 10 positions, but JR Williams was plus 12, so he takes that honor, at least in terms of the top 10 biggest movers. Francis Romero, Ethan Bass in the Ford up to 6 with Abner Acosta in front of Andrew Hardman, Andrew Waring, Joey Haynes. That, your top 10. Behind them, finishing down in 11th, Caleb Lehman, who worked his way up with those googly eyes, 10 spots. 12 spots up for Andres Espinosa. It's Josh Spears in 13th with Michael Terrafino and the Team Beef BMW behind them. Frankie Arvello completes your top 15 with Lucas Souza, Fernando Yaquez, and then Nico Sanidakis, who's up 15 spots with Martin Crisp, and then Philip Magnon through your top 20. Martin Crisp will be distraught. Ryan Scalny in 21st in front of Brian Curran with Tony Costello, Nick McLaughlin, Jared Farrell, Artie Mercedes, and Andrew Sharp. The final cars classified on the leading lap. It's Michael Pabiano 1 lap down with Casey Waters and Kwok Nin that complete the top 30 in front of Oliver Rodriguez, before we find those that encountered a bit more struggles here today. The likes of Luis Grullon, Marc-Andre Deschardins, Ryan O'Connor, Miguel Angel Fonseca, Gonzalo Cortez, Nani Tavares, Devin Horvath, Dave Menino, and then, of course, Kevin Norris. Not done yet. Tommy Brasone, Sean Dickinson, David Mendoza, and then Blake Ziti. That rounds out the 44 cars that actually took to the green. That does not include, of course, Juan Malagon, that will be slightly frustrated that technical issues stopped him from taking to the grid when he was going to be starting up inside of the top 5 positions. We won't dawdle any longer, though. Joey Tebben is ready to chat with your race winner, Beckham Jasir.
Indeed, I am. Beckham Jasir. I mean, I hope you've caught your breath first and foremost, because that was incredible. 20 minutes of defense from Arnaud Genet. How intense was that?
Yeah, it was pretty intense, because I wasn't even gonna make it on fuel, and then my pit crew guy was telling me that I had to put on a new set of tires, so I had a little bit of pressure on me, but it was a really fun race.
That's interesting. Fuel saving was the reason to come to the end there, but next week we travel to Belle Isle. You're back to victory lane here. How do the street circuits normally fare for you?
I'm actually pretty good at the street circuits. I like challenging tracks, and I think it'll be a good driver's track, so we'll really see there who's going to be one of the fastest.
Well, Beckham, congrats on another win this season. Thanks for the entertainment. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Beckham Jasir, victorious for the 5th time across 2 series in the PRL this season. But now we got the driver who came up just short, unfortunately. Arnaud Genet, you tried so many times at the final corner. What more did you need? What more did you need to try?
Better tires, maybe? Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm very sweaty. Beckham did defend well, to be honest. It was a good race. In the last sector, especially, I had better pace, or the car was faster for sure. And but yeah, he defended every time, I think, cleanly. So there was no passing him, and he did a good move exiting the pits actually, and I fueled a little bit too much. So again, not trying to make excuse. P2 is still a very good result for me.
Well, Arnaud, thank you for entertaining us over the last 20 minutes. That was one of the great PRL battles over the past couple of seasons, and let's do it again at Belle Isle next week.
Of course. See you guys.
Arnaud Genet, P2, and of course, the lead driver steward in the PRL. Always thankful for all the work he does. We got one more driver we get to talk to, because with Acosta's spin, Ethan Bass was promoted to P6 in that Ford. Did you expect a single-digit result in this Ford at Harath, Ethan?
Not after lap 1, where I almost killed myself, but no, that was good fun.
It was good fun from us in the booth as well. Congrats on P6. Congrats on finally giving the Ford the result it deserves, and we'll see you at Belle Isle next week.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a good bit of fun, but yeah, I'm so happy to finally finish one of these damn races.
Ethan Bass, P6 in the Ford Arjuna. It's so much fun to see that Ford coming around, especially in that shiny purple paint scheme. Little Ethan Bass, bringing us home.
You say fun, I say we're ready to let it die already at this point. However,
Maybe.
we are going to converge next time. We are not going to be confused about which races, which series goes to which track, etc., etc. Which continent, rather, we go to. We are going to Belle Isle. The Ford is going to be a tricky one because it's been decent over the bumps so far to start the season off. It may not be terrible at Belle Isle, but if Watkins Glen was crazy, if the Red Bull Ring is crazy, if there are crazy tracks on iRacing, there's crazy, and then there's Belle Isle.
And at Long Beach, when we used to go there every single season, we always think about the possibility of not going for a pit stop. Could somebody save fuel to go a full 40 minutes in the race? It's possible to do that at Belle Isle as well, so that's a whole nother strategy thing to think about. Could we eliminate a pit stop altogether if you can save enough fuel?
It's the Casey Kerwin thing that he does at Long Beach every once in a while.
Yes.
It's not fair. Here's a look at the schedule, though, because next time out, we reach the halfway point of the season, and then, of course, it's when things start to get a little bit nutty. Remember, 40-minute races, except for today, and over at the Barber Motorsports Park for 45 minutes, Joey, and as we found out today, fuel window changes a little bit when it comes to the time.
And Barber is a great track for this car, or for these cars, and it's actually very similar to Harath. So ironically, the two races that we take from the IMSA schedule for 45 minutes, pretty similar in terms of high-speed corners and tightness. So I think that's going to be a great race as well.
Well, it was a lot of fun, as always, here on a Tuesday night for Precision Racing League GT3 double-header action. We first went to upstate New York, and it was by no means a walk in the park. Our trip to Watkins Glen delivered the thrills and spills that you expect with GT3 racing up at that one fantastic facility. Then we went for the very first time over to Harath with our GT3 Sprint Series and Beckham Jasir, Arnaud Genet, and so many more put on a show and a battle for the ages. The battle rumbles on next week, though plenty of history set here, and we will get to see a little bit more on the streets of Detroit. On behalf of the team at RaceSpotTV, for Joey Tebben alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for your company. Don't forget, PRL action continues the next couple of nights, and we'll see you in 7 days' time to continue rolling on for GT3 action.